All right, I will call this meeting, the Westland City Council, to order. We will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilwoman Tasha Green.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Roll call.
Council members, I ask that in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, that you please announce where you are currently seated by county, municipality, and state. Councilman Godbout.
Yes, Jim Godbout attending the meeting virtually from Westland, Wayne County, Michigan.
Thank you. Councilwoman Green.
Present, attending virtually from Westland, Wayne County, Michigan.
Thank you. Councilman Herzberg. Councilman Herzberg.
Here.
Please announce where you are currently seated.
Attending virtually from Wayne County, Westland, Michigan.
Thank you. Pro Tem Lando.
Good evening. I'm attending this public meeting remotely from Westland, Michigan and Wayne County.
Thank you. Councilman McDermott.
Good evening. Attending this meeting virtually from Wayne County, Westland, Michigan.
Thank you. Councilwoman Rakowski.
Present, attending this meeting virtually from Wayne County, Westland, Michigan.
Thank you. President Hart.
Present, attending this meeting virtually from Wayne County, Westland, Michigan.
Thank you. A quorum is present.
Okay, we'll now move into questions or input on the agenda from the public. Public's invited to offer up to 3 minutes of input on the agenda. At this time, we will go ahead and take all items other than new business item 3. So stand by. I'm going to go ahead and put them hands back down. We're going to do this the same thing we did the other day. All non-item 3 items first, raise your hand. All right, so I've lowered all hands. So you have any non-item 3 issue, non-new business item 3 issue, please raise your hand. Mr. Rudoy. Mr. Rudoy, do you have a non-new business item 3 item?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, was new business item 3, I apologize. Is this regarding the voting in of the recommendations for marijuana?
Correct, Mr. Rudoy, that is item 3, and we're not taking that at this moment. We're taking everything else but that item first.
I apologize very much to the council. I'll lower my hand.
And it might not be an issue, so let's see. Are there any non-new business item 3 items to address on the agenda today? Okay, I feel comfortable having got those out of the way. Now, here we go. New business item 3. There we are. The first one is Mr. Rudoy.
Thank you very much. And I would just like to say, I'd like to thank the city council for taking this so seriously, taking their time and consideration on these matters. I believe it would be a real shame for this to end up in the courts, rather when the city council can really rectify this situation. I think it's very clear what the law is on these issues and what will happen when this case goes to court. The board and the selection committee went with an interpretation that the word property does not include a building. You cannot impute intent upon a word like property when it is unambiguous. The case law in Michigan, literally any dictionary definition, whether it's Black's Law Dictionary, any other dictionary definition in the world that exists, will tell you that property includes building, all permanent structures on land, the land and all permanent structures on it. It is very clear. My client, MHS Westland, submitted step 2 environmental reports showing that there was contamination, environmental contamination that needed remediation. Scoring section, talks about guidance from the EPA or EGLE. It's very clear they do not differentiate between environmental contamination in land and a building, and that property should include the building on the land. And I would just note, scoring topic 2A differentiates between a new building and vacant land. So it's clear that the city understands how to differentiate. If they intended for section 2B to include only the land, they could have used the word the land, but that's not what was included there. My client has detrimentally relied to, well beyond 6 figures based on the language that the city put out in the scoring rubric. And for that reason, it would just be a real shame if the city council does not rectify this. My clients do not want to have to go to court on this issue, but may be forced to if this issue is not rectified. And I think the outcome would be very clear and a waste of the city of Westland's money and time for this issue not to be rectified. With that being said, I thank you very much for your careful consideration on this issue, and I hope you make the right decision on this point.
Thank you. Next, we have last name Bevins.
Hello, Councilman. Can you guys hear me?
I can proceed.
Okay, perfect. My name's Samantha Bevins. I'm here on behalf of Meds Cafe. I'm one of the only Westland residents that applied in the city for a medical marijuana business license. I live at Cherry Hill in Newburgh. I just want to make sure that before you guys approve 3 huge locations there, you have done a traffic study. That's a 2-lane road that already has a lot of traffic issues. I don't think it can physically support this type of businesses you guys are trying to put in. And by bringing all the steel and stuff that's required to build these, I don't even know if that road and that railroad right there can handle that. Some other points I would want to make is I just don't know why we did a lottery before they heard our appeals. My building is contaminated. It's old Radiator Hospital. I have more than enough proof. My proof was overlooked at my appeal meeting. They asked me what page it clearly states my building is contaminated. I supplied that information to them. If you go down the street, there are wells back there that are monitored by the state currently for all the contaminants in that area due to the war that used to be there. And also, I'm not very happy about a comment that was made by the review board. They stated to me that I did not provide enough evidence, and I asked them, well, how come you didn't reach back out? They told me that wasn't their job. The next applicant that went in front of me got 5 separate emails and calls from the board asking for information. The board physically went out to their property and did all of these things. I really don't think that's fair at all. And I know the spirit of the ordinance was written to have these places spaced out. Do you really want right next to skate land, right next to the haunted house? One of the few things that Westlands have besides a park for kids to be a marijuana center? And are you guys ready for the citizens to file a lawsuit for all the smell and the loss of the house value over there? I really hope you guys consider this and do your due diligence. I hope you guys aren't rushed to vote. Like I said, I live in Westland. When these people sue you, my taxes go up. Not one other person. They don't care if they sue the city. They don't care about the traffic. They don't live here every day. We do. You guys do, and I do. And this is supposed to benefit the city, not hurt or harm or make houses or smell or congestion or traffic for any residents. This is supposed to be money coming in to help the city of Westland and not inconvenience anyone. And if you approve those 3 locations, you will hurt a lot of people
Okay,
at Cherry Hill and Newburgh.
your time is up. Thank you very much. Next, I have last name Langwith.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can proceed.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, all the members of the City Council, the Westland City Council. My name is Jacqueline Langwith. I'm an attorney from Cannabis Attorneys of Michigan. And I'm speaking today on behalf of a couple of clients that we have, and I want to urge you to postpone the approval of any of the provisional or conditional licenses. If you approve these this evening, you are generally opening the city up to many more lawsuits. The reason for that is that once you approve those conditional provisional licenses, you're giving those 7 applicants a property interest, which strengthens their case against you, which they will file a lawsuit against you. If in our case, I am the attorney that filed the recent lawsuit. If we get a preliminary injunction, which we're waiting for a hearing, we're just waiting for the attorneys from the city to agree to a time and day this week. And if you do this before we even have that hearing, then you've given these 7 applicants, now they have a property interest. And then if we do get the preliminary injunction, now you're not just going to have a lawsuit opposing by us, you're going to have a lawsuit from them. So then you're going to be involved in, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the Warren situation. We've been successful on our same issues, this very same issues in both Berkeley and Traverse City. So we have gotten 2 circuit courts to issue preliminary injunctions. So we do feel very optimistic that we will get this injunction, and all we want is just that the ordinance to follow state law. So I just urge you, you'll be harming the city. You'll be causing detriment to the city because you'll be opening it up for even more lawsuits. You'll have the 7 suing you for damages because you gave them a license, and then a court can invalidate it. And that's what happened in Warren. So I just urge you to just at least postpone the issuance of any of these license approvals until at least you find out what the Judge Lillard is going to rule on our preliminary injunction. And I thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next up, I have last name Barron. Last name Barron.
Right here. Thank you very much, Mr. Hart.
Yep.
I previously made comments at the work session on Saturday, and we also submitted written materials for the commission to consider as part of that work session. I'm with the law firm of Foley, Graham, Metzger, and Yipe, representing one of the applicants here, Combined Cannabis. And as we heard on Saturday, there were council members that had difficulty getting access to the hundreds of thousands of pages to review on the applications. We heard from the city planner, who acknowledged that the application process favored applicants who are going to put their cannabis businesses on otherwise undeveloped or distressed land, which we believe is improper social engineering. We also learned, and as you heard again tonight, that Section 2 is the area that's getting significant criticism as part of the application process. While that area is entitled financial, it really goes well beyond the issue of whether an applicant has demonstrated the financial ability to operate a cannabis business. It's our position that Section 2 is in violation of MRTMA and the MMFLA by trying to substitute social engineering requirements for what is otherwise state law. You've also heard, and as we have emphasized, that the whole issue of environmental is something that's been interpreted by the city in contradiction to what state law says in a couple of different fashions. First of all, this whole issue of building versus land, which wasn't specified. And then we also have the whole concept of contamination in a building somehow couldn't get to the land. And as a result, the city is now doing something that they're not allowed to do, which is going to end up in court, already has ended up in court. And we would suggest that the city is going beyond what the Part 201 statute says in terms of what you need to do by making people clean up property in order to get points rather than managing contamination in place. What we would respectfully request is that the city table a decision on these applications, reevaluate Section 2, the financial, try to get that section in compliance with state law. If they insist on going forward with the environmental, with this new interpretation that it's just the land and not a building, allow applicants to resubmit those sections of their applications which deal with that. And to address all this, we'd further suggest that the commission go into closed session with your counsel to discuss whether revisions of section 2 might make a number of the issues that have been raised in the lawsuit moot. Thank you very much for considering these comments.
Thank you. All right. Next, I have last name Bologna.
Can you hear me all right?
I can.
All right, thank you. My name's Anthony Bologna. I'm an attorney who represents several marijuana business owners and then a couple applicants in the city of Westland. I listened to the study session, and what I heard over and over was that as long as the process is followed, the city's okay rubber stamping the proposed winners in this process. And what I ask the city council to do is don't just rubber stamp the process. You have a duty to examine what happened during that process. And that's where a lot of these arguments and issues are coming up. Because as the prior attorney stated, section 2 has clear violations. The objectives of these applicants and business owners is not to create litigation. All they want is a fair process. And council has an opportunity now to make certain it is a fair process. We ask that you do not rubber stamp this tonight, table the item, take the time to examine what happened during the process. You have the ability to correct this. You have the ability to keep this out of the courts. And like I said, all we want is a fair process run here. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, nope, hold on. Next, I have last name Asper.
Good evening, Council President Hart. This is William Asper. I had a couple of questions. I'm hoping someone can at least answer to this first one. I was curious, does Westland currently have an odor ordinance? Anyone? So yes or no, please. Okay. All right. So if that was an easy question. Secondly, last fall, this was voted on. Now, I don't have an interest in this. I'm not trying to obtain a license at all. But this was mentioned. I felt that this vote was pushed and voted on without foresight of what was to come. I had a question. I was wondering if the city attorney advised on this at all. And if not, why not? During the vote, there was a couple council members, I can't remember who it was, but they said they did not want the vote to be in January or February or March. They wanted to vote on it right then. And they even said, this is our baby, which threw me off. But multiple people in the audience, and I believe even a council member or two, warned that this is going to cause a lot of lawsuits. So if you could please answer if there's an odor ordinance, I would greatly appreciate it. Of course, any residential or commercial businesses in the area, they would be affected if this odor goes onto their property. Thank you.
All right. Next, I have last name Pardon.
Hello, my name is David Pardon, and I'm the CEO of the Combined Cannabis of Michigan. I'm here to speak tonight in regards to the selection process of these marijuana business licenses. And I greatly urge the council to further review these applications and the review board process, since no applicant was given a direct response from that board itself. The only response that was given was that was recommended by Mo. This review process was supposed to serve as a check and balance to the selection committee, but they failed to respond as an independent third party. There was no public deliberation from the review board consisting of Devin, Albert, and Danielle. It was Mo that responded to all the appeals by issuing a document with his reasoning, not from the review board. Now I ask city council to step in and be that checks and balance. Another concern is the existing process does not consider the applicant's ability to fulfill their proposed timelines to operate a marijuana business. This creates a process that picks winners based on the applicant that can make the biggest promise. If you review these proposals and do not believe they can attain their commitments, do you really want to be addressing it in 18 months when they do not stay on their timeline? I can provide examples from Madison Heights and Mount Clemens specifically that have encountered that exact problem. Madison Heights approved 2 conditional licenses May of 2019 and still to date have not had a legal sale or a plant growing in their facility. Furthermore, Mount Clemens conditionally approved a site that needed to be completely revamped after it was taken to planning and shown it was simply not possible to build what they proposed, essentially approving a group for lying on their application. If you decide to certify these top 3 tonight, will you be confident in your decision that they will be able to uphold their end of the bargain? We have been good corporate citizens over the past few decades in the city of Westland as we have built 3 buildings in this city and shown that we are able to work diligently and swiftly, meanwhile providing space for numerous businesses to call Westland their headquarters. I personally have helped dozens of defendants in Westland fight their criminal cases from outside the jail by posting bonds through my company, Easy One Bail Bonds. I think you'd be making a huge disservice to the community by not bringing the best fit groups for the city of Westland. Local has been your city's common theme that's preached in almost every single meeting, whether it's shop local, eat local, or just supporting your local businesses. Why veer from that now? Because it's cannabis? I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Next, I have last name Pollock.
Thank you, Council President Hart and City Council. My name is Dan Pollock. I am the COO of Combined Cannabis of Michigan, doing business as American Grown. As the city plans to vote on conditional marijuana licensure today, I would like to make sure the council is aware of the selection committee's position to interpret the scoring rubric's criteria for new building. While the rubric does not specify any qualifiers on a building, the selection committee has taken it upon themselves to add definition beyond the plain text of the rubric for a new building proposal. Through attendance of numerous city council meetings, we learned of the work being done by the Sleep in Heavenly Peace organization, and after volunteering with them, realized that they really need a place to call their own. Our proposal of a 1,200 square foot building for a charitable organization meets the city's stated intent to bring development to areas that would otherwise remain undeveloped for a purpose that brings the most benefit for the Westland community. The selection committee went beyond their role of executing the scoring rubric by adding additional definition to what does or does not count as a building after applications were submitted. Additionally, I wanted to again bring to the council's attention that Westland's current marijuana scoring rubric incentivizes poor business practices. By awarding points for blight, property contamination, and building vacancy, the result of the rubric does not only fail to accomplish the stated intent of building up areas which would not otherwise be developed, it has already done the exact opposite and will continue to result in additional vacancy and blight within the city. Applicants have already stated that they have either removed or an existing tenant or left buildings unnecessarily vacant to adhere to the city's rubric. While this was discussed as a hypothetical concern during the citizen comments on the day of the rubric's approval on May 18th, it is now and will continue to be a material problem within the city. Based on the 18-month deadline defined within Westland's ordinance for a conditional license winner to be operational, it is all but impossible for certain proposals to remediate contaminated property and build a multi-million-dollar facility from the ground up within that timeline. Based on the existing ordinance, that outcome would result in the city repeating its application policy, the rubric for which is now known to award points for blight and contamination. As a result, the existing process sends a message to all Westland landowners within the green zone requirements of the ordinance that if they halt the upkeep of their property for the next 18 months, Westland could reward them with a multi-million-dollar opportunity, just as the city has done for landowners of blight and contamination today. Please consider revising the scoring rubric to adhere to the MRTMA by making the process competitive by nature of an applicant's likelihood to adhere to the state requirements rather than by which applicant has the worst location, the result of which is already hurting, not helping the area's development. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Last name Aronoff. Mr. Aronoff, you are on mute, so if you had your hand raised.
Good evening. Thank you. Hello, my name is Craig Aronoff. I represent ROSA. We applied for a co-located facility on Webb Drive. Our application included a business owner who's been in your city for 10 years and had a vacant property. We also included a separate property that had blight and contamination as defined by the scoring rubric. And similar to many of the other comments and concerns that you've heard tonight, throughout the process, there is definition of business location in this application, in the instructions all throughout. The one area it's not located is in topic 2B. There's no indication whatsoever that the developed property be included that's contaminated had to be the one where the business location is located. And similar to other arguments and discussions and concerns you've already heard from other applications, the selection committee took it upon itself to add that as a criteria. In fact, during the study session, they stated it was part of the criteria, but I looked to and asked you to take that that PowerPoint page and reflect it on the rubric. You won't see matching language. It doesn't say that. And to add it in and to give what's clear and defined and specific in 2C that specifically provides for where the marijuana business location would be right next to it, but not in 2B, and to assume that we'd all think it would be, is incorrect. It's on the rubric to provide the specificity if it's required. And similar to the other arguments, that's something that even in our appeal brief, we cited the case law that supports our argument that you can't just add language throughout the administrative process. The bigger issue also, and I guess the same issue along the way, is how this marijuana review board did its job or actually didn't do its job. They didn't actually review any appeal and give a decision on the merits of each appeal. In fact, throughout the process, there wasn't a single question during many of the appeal sessions. And in our appeal session, the response from the city was simply, it wasn't where the business location is located. But no discussion, no further questions, no discussion of the legal argument that was made, citing case law in Michigan that supports our position. Nothing. And then we get to the deliberation, and somehow these three parties had it on themselves decided not to deliberate at all before it even started. There wasn't a minute of discussion. Not one, not on any individual. They just lumped everybody together on this environmental concern, which you've heard and it's raised and it's all briefed and there's case law and whatever. But even on top of that, for the board to just simply summarily vote that 27 appeals, not a single one of them had any meritorious argument whatsoever for a single point to be changed, is outrageous. The statistics wouldn't even provide for that. They needed to do their job,
Okay,
and your job.
Thank you. Your time is up. Next, I have last name Feldman.
Hi, guys. Thank you very much for everyone's time. I'm part of the ROSA group, coincidentally following Craig Aronoff. And to kind of continue his thoughts, I truly believe the review board didn't see what our situation is. They didn't give us any feedback at all. The review board saw all these different complaints and didn't make one change. So I asked the question, was everything done perfectly? I don't think so, because I could tell you in our case, it wasn't. Again, when you look at 2B, it doesn't specifically say the property you're going to occupy, where it does say that in many other areas of the rubric. It says the property that you're going to occupy. It doesn't in 2B. So we got a property in the city of Westland that is contaminated, that Mo agreed is contaminated per your rubric and did everything you asked, yet we didn't get our 8 points. And that is, it's not fair. The review board, I don't believe even looked at it. I think they lumped us in with everyone else and looked at us differently. We should absolutely, it's black and white. 2 + 2 = 4. It doesn't equal 5. And that's the case here. And I'm asking council to consider this and say, you know what, maybe there were mistakes made. Let's not jump to a conclusion. Let's push it back to the review committee and let's get this right. We've been there since day one. I haven't missed one of your meetings, and we gave our thoughts throughout the whole process. Unfortunately, it turns out the 3 lottery winners are all right next to each other, which is going to cause a lot of problems in Westland. And the lottery, the last thought is the lottery that was held, you had flat index cards thrown in a cardboard box. The top few were pulled out, and those were the lottery winners. Someone said they had that on video. Please review that. That's not a fair way either. So I'm asking council to please push this back. Let's get this right. Thank you so much for your time, guys.
Thank you. Last name Williams.
Yes, thank you, council members. This is Wilbert Williams, and I'm a part of the team with Rob Feldman and Craig Aronoff. And I'd like to reiterate what Rob and Craig said regarding Section 2B. It is our belief that based on the letter of the law, the way the application process was written, we followed the letter of the law. And I'd urge the council members to have a review of our application, a re-review of our application to ensure that 2B is scored correctly. Again, Craig, we believe, has done a fantastic job outlining the several instances in which references were made to contaminated properties. Section 2B, again, it is our belief that we followed the letter of the law, and I'd urge you to reconsider the way Section 2B was scored for the property on Web Drive, 39097 and 39101, 109 Web Drive. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Blake.
Hey, I unmuted and I got a new mic today. I just want to say one thing. If we're going to have marijuana in our city, so be it. But I really feel that there needs to be something done within this police community, because if the police stop a African American person with disability who's high, they're going to act different versus a Caucasian person with a disability that's high. So I really hope that when you're making all these decisions, you look at everything that happens in the city. Right now, the other investigation has not been answered, and the mayor is running for re-election. So I think that when we look at the marijuana issue, I hope that law enforcement will be able to treat everybody equal when dealing with marijuana.
All right, thank you. Last name Elwood.
Good evening. Thank you. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Thanks for hearing this out. City council members, board members, chiefs, and I think I've seen Parks and Rec too. A couple things. I represent the property that's at 39139 Ford Road, also known as South Frontage. It's a side street, the old Radiator Hospital. The spirit of the ordinance that most have said, and what we've seen, is that retail locations were to be spread out. You even have in the ordinance specific to retail only has to be north and south of Ford Road. However, a vertical model, as it's called, or a multiple use, which includes retail, will have the equivalent traffic as well, on top of the fact that people are going to an industrial site on a retail level. The spirit of the ordinance with all three of them for happenstance, or possibly more, that they're all right on top of each other, really doesn't follow what the spirit of the ordinance was. So I wanted to kind of relay that for the first three. The other thing was having the drawing prior to hearing the appeal process automatically set the city up for some sore losers, either the three that made it or the ones that did not. So no matter what, the easiest path of resistance is to stay status quo through that appeal process. And then, the last thing, and this is specific to the property that we had, our appeal process on that property, I represented the owner originally, and he even came to discussion and spoke in reference to conversations with one of the review board members in regard to him wanting to move back into the building, and was told there needed to be some work done on the property due to contamination, due to this. Our response for ours was specific, the points. We would have had 100 points except for environmental. when we went through that reviewed process, the response from one of the board members was it's not their job to ask for additional information. We had the page 1, we had proof of paying for a second, we had a dissertation as to why it's an environmental hazard. Right at the end of the street, it actually has wells that everybody, I'm assuming at the city level, knows that those are being looked at, monitoring contamination right now. The response was that it's not the review board's job to ask for further documentation if we were missing something. So we did have the environmental information. We didn't have an 800-page environmental. We had the overdraft page of it, the proof of payment, etc. However, right before our appeal, there was a group that was told that, or mentioned that they were called by the review board asking for additional.
Thank you. That's your time. Next, I have AK.
Hi, everyone. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi, guys. This is Eric Clark, CEO and founder of Quality Roots. Again, I've been coming out as marijuana has kind of been, the discussion topic here over the past couple of weeks that we've, as Westland is hopefully near the end of this process. Quality Roots is very excited to finally get the opportunity to establish our roots here in Westland. And we feel very fortunate to have been selected through the very rigorous application and lottery process that resulted in a wake of a tie of 7 applicants, specifically in the co-located areas. But one thing that I want to mention in regards to all my other cannabis colleagues on this phone call today, and during this meeting, there were no arguments of the process during the process. The city council needs to be very aware that we are being hit with negativity after the selection has been determined. This process was very, very clear. Quality Roots has invested tons of time and dollars following that process. Has Quality Roots lost an application in a municipality before? Yes. What have we done? We have moved on to the next one to try our best to embed with. And here we are in Westland on the brink of getting our ability to finally further embed deeply into a municipality. Quality Roots is poised and ready to build and operate a generational long cannabis operation along the corridor of Cherry Hill and Newburgh. And we look forward to furthering and showing the Westland community the amazing positives that can come from this new industry by working with a group like Quality Roots, who was selected through this very rigorous process. And we hope that the city council can move forward tonight based on how clear that process was to give the successful applicants the ability to hit the ground running, get through the planning review process, and again, start showing our ability to operate in compliance, but even more importantly, our ability to give back to the beautiful city of Westland. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I have last name, I believe, Elias.
Thank you. This is Mike Elias, CEO of Common Citizen. I echo every sentiment Eric Clark just mentioned. We've been a part of a better part of a dozen of these now. And I just applaud you for the courage you have going down this path, knowing where you would be here. I'm pretty sure you saw this coming. But I can tell you, having been front row seat in this process, these type of processes across Michigan, you have an ironclad argument. Your process has been incredibly transparent. There have been no issues that were brought up during that time. There were opportunities for folks to voice their concerns, and there were none. And so I applaud you for where you're at, and look forward to participating and opening up retail shops in your space and serving the patients, those who've been yearning for access for quite some time at this point. So thank you again.
Thank you. All I have is, it says Stephen. Stephen, are you there?
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hello? Okay. I just have a question pertaining to the Americans with Disabilities Act. Pertaining to the closed caption, is anyone checking under the ADA pertaining to the spelling should be accurate? Has anyone checked that from the city of Westland? Also, I noticed that the closed caption is not staying on the screen for the correct period of time under the ADA. So I would like that to be addressed and someone to follow up with me pertaining to that. And I never got my answer, my questions answered from last. Do you have to be a resident of City of Westland to be on the boards and commission? I would like the administration or someone from City Council to stop ignoring that question and answer it. Thank you. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Phone number ending in 017.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
I can.
Richard Graham from Westland and also with Move Westland Forward. Wasn't going to speak actually regarding the agenda items, and I guess it's item 3 regarding the marijuana license. So my apologies if I'm not getting it accurately, because I, again, had no intention of speaking. Interesting to hear lawyer after lawyer make comments, that's for sure. Just, for, everybody's knowledge that's listening, my wife and I run a Facebook page called Move Westland Forward. And regarding these marijuana licenses, you need to dig a little deeper regarding Team Wild and the Wild appointed board and commission for this. Hearing all the people talk regarding licensing, is troubling, concerning, but frankly not surprising that these things are happening. The 2 locations, Alexander the Great, if that's a place that was stated long ago there was going to be a place for marijuana. And also there's a store in Walled Lake. And if they're involved, that was also a hot button with Team Wild activity. So keep digging. We're here to help and support, uncover the facts and let people know what's really going on. So talk to everybody a little bit later during citizen comments, but just wanted to voice concern regarding, the numerous lawyers that are objecting and wouldn't surprise that this is a rather flawed process, especially regarding Team Wild's involvement. Thank you.
Mr. Graham, you're going to have to stop with the Team Wild. It's personal attack. So that's the end of it. Thank you.
Not a personal.
Next, I have MK. MK, are you there?
Yep, I'm here.
Please
Can everyone
proceed.
hear me okay?
Yep.
Yep. Hello, everyone. This is Michael Clark, co-founder and vice president of Quality Roots. As Eric and Mr. Elias has said as well, we are very, very excited to bring our family business, our generational, trustworthy business here into the city of Westland. We feel like this has been nothing but a fair process for the individuals involved, the rigorous application process, and everything that went into it. Going back to family roots, our family has built on customer service and treating patients the right way, as we are known in the pharmacy business, and we cannot wait to bring that here in Westland. This business is exciting. We look forward to embedding with everyone throughout the community and our neighboring partners, and we look forward to nothing more than supporting businesses throughout the city of Westland and doing joint things together for the better of the community. Thank you, and hope everyone has a great evening.
Thank you. Next, I have MK. Oh, I just had you, MK. I apologize. There we are, disable. I have phone number ending in 186.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Hi, this is Kevin Blair. I represent Loom. I'm looking forward to hearing the council deliberate tonight and explain the reasoning for which applicants will get licenses. As I mentioned on Saturday, the buck stops with you. We had urged the selection committee and the appellate board to consider site-specific issues, and they refused. They said they had no choice but to go with the lottery winner. They deliberately ignored sections of your policy 2.6, 4.1, 5.5 that specifically contemplate a flexible process and soliciting input from relevant departments along the way. They did not follow that process. They refused to consider safety and traffic and refused to even consider that issue. I want to emphasize that no one has reviewed this and said that it is safe to put a marijuana retail store on a 0.5 acre lot on Ford Road. You refuse to even consider that issue. But you don't have the option of ignoring that issue because the buck stops with you. You created the rubric and the policy, and the council can award these licenses to anyone you want, no matter what the selection committee or board recommend. You could send it back to the board and ask them to consider these issues, or you could do it yourself. It's not rocket science. You've recently amended the zoning ordinance to allow drive-through restaurants in CB1. The lottery winner south of Ford Road is in CB1, and you would never put a drive-through restaurant on that 0.5 acre lot. A retailer will get way more traffic than a drive-through restaurant. I promise if you put a retailer on that land, you will regret it. The traffic will be atrocious, there will be accidents, and the community will be livid. There were 4 perfect scores south of Ford Road, and there are obvious differences between the sites. 3 are tiny lots on Ford Road. Loom is 3.64 acre lot, 7 times bigger on a less busy road. There's 57 parking spaces. Common citizen will be lucky to get 15 spots on their 0.5 acre. Imagine how fast that lot will clog up and spill out onto Ford Road. It's going to be a mess, and there will be backups and accidents. What will you tell the irate constituents when they ask you why you didn't put any thought at all into picking common citizen? The lottery does not pick the safest options. You were elected to use your good judgment, not hide behind a blind lottery draw. Please consider safety and traffic and pick someone based on the merit, not on who had their name pulled out of a hat. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Is there any other comment on the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, I'm closing comment on the agenda. I'm going to break real quick from the agenda. I did get a late notification. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib is on the call today and wanted to address us and give us a legislative update. So Congresswoman, please stand by. I'm going to activate your line. Congresswoman, are you there?
Yes, thank you so much, Councilman President Hart. I apologize, everyone. I got out of the Inkster City Council early, and so I wanted to just give you all a quick update. I know you're really busy tonight. Just want to thank you all for your incredible support and partnership with the American Rescue Plan. I heard from some of you about the need and importance of making sure that local communities like Westland get some support in protecting our residents and also ensuring that we take on the virus and make sure that we again have the resources we need. So Westland is going to be getting about a little, over $27 million. That's estimation. It could change with the formula, but that's going to be direct aid that will go to the state and then to the city of Westland. The other really important thing I heard a lot from our Westland residents about, please, let's get the schools open. We are very much wanting the schools to open safely. We can't just allow them to do it with the lack of resources that they have. So Wayne Westland schools will be getting over $35 million from the American Rescue Plan. This is going to help with class sizes, some other really challenging issues for many of our kids that are in the school system. The other really important initiative that's in there is the expansion of vaccinations through making it more mobile. A lot of our federally accredited clinics are going to be able to get some access to direct vaccinations, direct shots to put in the arms of our residents. So that's $20 billion for that. Survivor checks are coming through. You're going to get a lot of questions about that. Please know that my office has an open door policy. I know many of the council members, Councilman Green, McDermott, Hart, many of you already contacted me directly. I know Michael always does regarding residents that have some challenges in getting their survival checks and making sure that their dependents are also getting it. You know, I have some that are married couples filing, the husband gets the check, the wife doesn't, or vice versa. So we want to make sure the IRS is doing their part. We're going to have assistance for rent, utility assistance, and water. I know in the city of Ecorse, about 70% of my residents there are not paying their water bill. It's really, again, becoming inaccessible. If you have any issues with that, please let our office know. We want to make sure that Wayne Metro Community Action Agency is helping them out. For our small businesses, $300, it's an extension for the unemployment. It's $300 until the end of summer. And then $50 billion for our small businesses. Now for the $50 billion, these are real small businesses, y'all, like our mom and pop shops, and also for our faith-based organizations, any 501c3s that have been struggling, they also qualify for those funds as well. So those are some of the top line items. You'll hear me more and more talk to a lot of people about child poverty because we did address this in the American Rescue Plan. We cut childhood poverty in half with the expansion or enhancement of the child tax credit. So any children under the age of 6 would be $3,600 per child. And for children over the age of 6, it's $3,000 per person. It's just heightened from $2,000 to $3,000. So we're really, really eager to make sure that this is direct aid to, again, our residents. In the past, we've tried this, but it always was very heavy towards corporations and businesses and others, but you know, that really didn't touch the lives of many of our residents. And so we pushed back and said, let's try this approach. And already we're hearing significant change for many of our communities that know that help is on the way. So with that, I'll open up to any questions, but I know Council President Hart, you do have a big agenda. And again, I apologize for coming in so late. I didn't expect instant to.
No problem, Congresswoman. Just give me a heads up next time so we can work it in. The first question for you did come from Mayor Wild.
Thank you, Council President, and good evening, Congresswoman, and thank you for joining us tonight. And thank you wholeheartedly from our community for your unwavering support on this. And we know that there's a lot of pieces in that bill, and we know that the portion for state and local government was an extremely partisan piece of it, but you never wavered, and we appreciate that. You had mentioned the part about under vaccinations for federally qualified health centers. We do have one in Westland, and if there's any way that we could partner with you or make that health center a vaccination site, would certainly be willing to partner. And I think we do have some CARES Act money from the second round that could help facilitate some of that or offset some costs. So anything that you could do for there, we would certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. And Mayor, I appreciate your meeting with me this year. And we did talk about Covenant Care, and it was just for full disclosure, Covenant Care started in Southwest Detroit in my neighborhood, and they've expanded to Westland, and they're just an incredible organization that is very much hands-on. And so we want to make sure that they have the support. I'm also going to check in with Myers and Rite Aid. Both of those have been now designated pharmacies that are going to get their own vaccination shots. So they won't have to go through the same allocation from the county or from the state. They will be getting direct, again, vaccination. So we want to make sure that maybe there's a partnership, or Trinity Health might be willing to work together in ensuring that Westland has access.
I was on mute. Thank you, Congresswoman. The next question comes from Councilman Peter Hersberg.
Thank you, and thanks, Congresswoman Talib, for joining us. It's really helpful. I just have a quick question. If you could touch on the $27 million that was mentioned that's coming to Westland. Do we know when that's going to take place? What it can be used for? Is it going to be earmarked? Or is it going to be something where we have to spend the money first and ask for a reimbursement later? If you could touch on that, if you know, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. So the federal government has 60 days to send that money to the states, and then the states have 30 days to make sure it gets, and there's timelines in there intentionally, because I'm going to need all of your help, because it seems that the Michigan legislature and legislatures across the country have been holding on to some of this money coming from the federal government to address COVID. So anything you all can do, that's why we put the timeline on there. They have 30 days to get that money to you all. In some cases, it might be a half of the funding from the federal government, and then the other half will come in within 12 months. But again, I think it depends. I know Westland, Detroit, and Dearborn Heights are on a different timeline. So I just want to make sure that you all are aware. But the language, as Mayor Wild will know, he's part of the number of, like, not only MML and some other city or local government organizations and coalitions that have been advocating for Congress for this help, is that the language to what you can use it for is pretty broad and flexible, a lot more broader and flexible for you all to be able to use some of the funding. But I will follow up with you directly. Maybe all the council members, you'll get an email from me. SEMCOG did a really good job explaining what you can spend the money on, but I think that'll be really important for all the council members. I'll make sure to each of you get an email from me specifically with the language that passed. It passed out of our House Oversight Committee, ironically. That's the committee I sit on. And I intimately worked with the chairwoman on this. And again, we intentionally did that because not all communities are the same. We wanted to make sure that it was broad enough and flexible enough that you all can make decisions that are best interest of your residents and not push various standards based on other people's needs.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. The next question comes from Councilwoman Tasha Green.
Thank you. Really quickly, Congresswoman, and thank you so much for coming tonight and providing this helpful information. Is there a link or a website for the for businesses, small businesses, the mom and pop small businesses you referenced, and also nonprofits to apply for the funding? I think you said 54 million.
It's 50 million, yeah.
Where do they go?
Yeah, so the best thing to do, Councilwoman Green, is to please just have them call our office. This is why, because Small Business Administration has a list of recommended banking institutions they can go through. I am very biased. I ask some of my smaller businesses, even if they bank with some of the so-called traditional banks, I ask them to use the credit unions and some of the CDFIs, which are really been working, because there's language in there that prioritizes the community-based banks and the independent banks to be able to help some of the smaller communities. We learned our lesson from the first round. We saw that it was bigger businesses, 500 employees or more. They're important, but it was the smaller ones, our small bakeries, I have my home-based businesses that have really suffered because of this pandemic. And so the best thing to do is call my office at 313-463-6220. Again, 313-463-6220. We are probably going to have another webinar. We've had 2 so far webinars on how to apply through the Small Business Administration in the processes. And again, I want to reinforce the importance that our 501c3s, so some of our faith-based organizations, some of our nonprofits are also eligible to apply for the Small Business Administration. And we say alone, but I just want you all to know the language is set in a way that it can turn into a grant that doesn't have to be paid back.
Thank you, Congresswoman.
Thank you.
All right, Congresswoman, next one comes from Councilman Mike McDermott.
Good evening, Congresswoman Sleeve. Thank you again for joining us. Councilman Herzberg had asked one of my questions, but I guess I have 2 more. In regards to the 30-day timeframe that was attached to the funds, I know there's been a lot of kind of gridlock going on between the governor and the state legislature. In the event that they don't meet that 30-day threshold, what ultimately happens to those funds? And then question number 2, is the 27 million that we can potentially expect to be getting here in the community doled out at once, or is that money coming in segments? Thank you.
So what I've read so far from the language that we have is the federal government, the IRS can, Treasury can send out half of that, and then the other half, first round, and then another half. But I have to double check and make sure. I know there's some language that says that. In regards to the gridlock, so I don't know. I know that some can apply for an extension. I know we put language in there, but again, this is where I'm going to need your help. We're very lucky that there's so much support for the American Rescue Plan. You're going to hear a bit of the criticism, but I think folks understand that many of our municipalities were on survivor mode, just like our people were prior to the pandemic. And when this hit, we didn't have the infrastructure in place. Our frontline workers, from our police to our fire, really suffered tremendously from it. Some of them are still having some after effects to the COVID, and we need to make sure that they are supported during this. And so I think it's important that you all continue to express it shouldn't be a partisan issue. Again, I can't stress enough to you all, from Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Independent folks, all support this direct aid to people, to local communities, and hopefully the Michigan legislature doesn't, play politics here. I hope that, Clerk LeBlanc and I sat on appropriations together, and there was just always the support when, especially, I guess, President Obama, there was a lot of friction there, remember? But every time the money came from the expansion of healthcare, from the expansion of so forth, we were able to get at least enough bipartisan support outside of the halls of the legislature that put the pressure on them to move this out quickly. And so again, we're very lucky that there are Republican mayors and different political background folks that are saying, look, we need this. This is going to be big, huge lift, especially because we weren't ready for a pandemic.
All right, is that all set, Councilman McDermott? Everybody's good?
It is. Thank you, Congresswoman.
All right,
And
Congresswoman,
you
thanks
again,
for
Council
coming out.
President. Yeah, appreciate you.
Have a good day.
Be safe.
All right, Mr. Clerk, I guess we'll move on to the consent calendar. Is there a motion?
So moved, Londo.
A motion by Councilman Londo. Is there support?
Support, Herzberg.
Support by Councilman Herzberg. Is there any discussion? Any discussion?
Yes, I have one.
Councilman Herzberg.
Thank you. I'd like to move item E to new business 1A, please.
There's a motion to move item E to new business. Is there support?
Support, McDermott.
Support by Councilman McDermott. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Roll call.
To move consent item E to 1A, Councilman Godbout.
Yes.
Councilwoman Green.
Yes.
Councilman Herzberg.
Yes.
Pro Tem Londo.
Yes.
Councilman McDermott.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
President Hart.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, moving back to the consent calendar. Is there any other discussion? Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Godbout.
Yes.
Councilwoman Green.
Yes.
Councilman Herzberg.
Yes.
Pro Tem Londo.
Yes.
Councilman McDermott.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
President Hart.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Council has approved the following consent calendar items. Approval of minutes of the regular meeting held March 1, 2021. Approval of bid for prisoner transport and lodging. Administration recommended the lone bidder, Calhoun County Sheriff's Office, in the amounts as described. Year 1, per prisoner per day, $53.20. Year 2, $54.53 per day. In year 3, $55.89 per day. Approval of bid for professional community development block grant consolidated and annual plan services. Administration recommended the low bidder, Wade Trim Associates Incorporated, in the amount not to exceed $21,500. Approval of intergovernmental agreement with Wayne County to utilize park millage funding from fiscal year 2020 through 2021 for improvements at J.C. Park and Stottlemyre Park. Adoption of prepared resolution authorizing the City of Westland Department of Parks and Recreation to apply for the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Recreation Passport Grant Program to add pour-in-place rubber material around the existing play structure at Tatton Park, known as the Play Planet, located at 1901 North Carlson. The city's share not to exceed 26% or $32,943.63 of the total project cost of $126,706.25. The last item approved on the consent calendar, adoption of proclamation to proclaim March 2021 as Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month in the city of Westland. Moving to new business, item 1, set public hearing date for the 2021-2022 Community Development Block Grant and Home Program 5-year consolidated annual plan. A suggested public hearing date is April 19, 2021.
So moved, Herzberg.
All right, I'm gonna flip a coin. I'm gonna say a motion by Councilman Herzberg, supported by Council President Pro Tem Londo. Is there any discussion? Any
Wasn't me, it was Councilman Godbout.
Oh, was it God? Well, you know what? I called it Londo, so that's the way it's gonna be. No, Godbout then. I apologize. Is there any discussion from the maker, Councilman Herzberg?
No discussion, thank you.
Any discussion from the supporter, Councilman Godbout?
No.
All right. Any other discussion from the council? All right. Oh, you have a hand up, Council President Pro Tem Londo.
I'll be very, very brief. Joanne, thank you so much for the presentation earlier today. You put a lot of hard work into those presentations. Very, very thorough and detailed, and I appreciate all you do for our city. Thank you.
All right. Is there any other discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Godbout.
Yes.
Councilwoman Green.
Yes.
Councilman Herzberg.
Yes.
Pro Tem Londo.
Yes.
Councilman McDermott.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
President Hart.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. New business, item 1A, approval of energy choice agreement with the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority to provide the city with an opportunity to realize savings on various electric utility bills.
Don't move, Londo.
Motion by Councilman Londo, supported by Councilman Godbout. Mayor, did you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, just real quick, and Devin's on too. He can give additional detail if needed. Council, this is it's a really good opportunity for us. This is a program that's managed by the MMRMA. It's only for MMRMA members. It's basically the opportunity to purchase electricity third party. I believe about 10 years ago, this was born from some sort of legislation probably surrounding DTEs, a rate request. But at the end of the day, this has been a closed program. I've been trying to get us in it for about 10 years. There was another DTE user that was similar size to the city of Westland that went out of business, or created a spot. Devin worked with Energy for MMRMA to get, I think we got 9 of our buildings, and the only 2 buildings that we had that did not get in because of, we were trying to fit a slot that somebody else came out of, was City Hall and Jefferson Barnes, but they're still on the list to go in. Communities that have been using this have been seeing on average a 10 to 15% savings per month. The billing's gonna pretty much be the same, and Devin will manage it the same way that we manage our natural gas program that we do through a third party biller. So we expect, I think Devin said, to save probably 9 or 10 grand a month on our electric bill with this program. So it's kind of a no-brainer, but at the end of the day, this program's been closed now for a decade, so there's a spot to get in, so I tried to get us into it. Thank you.
All right, is there any discussion from the maker, supporter? Any other discussion from the council? Councilman Herzberg.
Thank you. And thanks, Mayor, for that update. That's really what I was looking for, was to kind of learn about why we're doing this. If you could clarify, though, you said the program's been going on for 10 years, or it was cut. Is this something new that was going on before?
Like I said, I believe this was born out of some sort of legislation at the state level surrounding a rate increase for DTE at the time. They had to allow X amount of maybe third-party billing or something. But I know that MMRMA's been managing the program, and we've been on a waiting list to get into it, and that we finally have the opportunity.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we're going to save money, I'm I'm in support. You know, it's just, I'm a little concerned. You know, we're going to save 9 to 10,000 a month. That's 9 to 10,000 a month that DTE is no longer going to get. And I just a little concerned that they may pass an increase on to other consumers within the city. I would like time to learn more about the company. Do they provide residential service at this point? I mean, is this something we should be encouraging others in the city to get on board with too, or?
Unfortunately, our residents do not have a chance to get into it. This is a program for commercial entities, which is only open to MMRMA members. So the city's available to be in it. And as far as them passing on, you know, if the city was to save 10 grand, they got to make it up somewhere else. I think that like I said, I believe the legislation which set this up originally was part of a rate increase that was approved to DTE at the time. So they knew that there was going to be a certain portion eligible for this third party. And so I'm not an expert on it by any means, but I know that Monroe County in 10 years has saved over $1 million by being part of the program. So I know it works.
Thanks. And yeah, just so it doesn't sound like they're those guys that are going door to door all over town trying to get people to sign up. Yeah, I saw Dearborn Heights is on the list and some others. I just, a little, like I said, I don't want to see the DTE pass on, you know, an increase to others because we do this. And, you know, we talked about it at our study session before that there's ongoing projects with DTE doing the Norwayne street lighting. I just would hope that there's no, you know, rebuttal from DTE. So I'll be in support. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there any other discussion from the council? Roll call.
Councilman Godbout.
Yes.
Councilwoman Green.
Yes.
Councilman Hersberg.
Yes.
Pro Tem Londo.
Yes.
Councilman McDermott.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
President Hart.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Mr. President, I'd like to take a moment to reference one item from the consent calendar that I did not read off. And I felt myself being virtually smacked by the Community Development Director. Item F was also approved today. Approval of request to reprogram Community Development Block Grant, Home, and NSP funds as indicated within the supportive documents. Thank you for allowing me to do that. Having said that, moving to new business, item 2, approval of proposed rezoning from CB1, low intensity commercial business, to CB3, general commercial business, 920 South Wayne Road, west side of Wayne, between Cherry Hill and Avondale. This is Planning Department number 2187C.
So moved. Hersberg.
Motion by Councilman Hersberg. Is there support?
Rakowski.
I got support by Councilwoman Rakowski. Mo?
Thank you, Council President. Let me share my screen and I'll get started. Okay. The subject property here is located on the west side of Wayne, just north of Avondale, highlighted there on your screen in yellow. The overall property is about 30,000 square feet and is currently zoned CB1, low intensity commercial business. The site is currently developed with that building you see on there. It's a multi-tenant commercial building. It's mostly vacant. There is a Liberty Tax office that occupies the southernmost suite, approximately in this area over here. The owner tonight is requesting to rezone the property from CB1 to CB3. That's our general commercial business district. The purpose is to allow for a dog training, grooming, and boarding business. I'll allow the business owner who's on the call, Mr. Peacher, to describe it a little bit more in detail. They're looking for a bigger facility. They're relocating from a different community. This use that I just described to you is permitted by right in the CB3 district. I have a reoccupancy application on my desk waiting if this gets approved tonight to approve tomorrow morning. The 2018 City of Westland Master Plan Future Land Use designation for this property is neighborhood commercial and office services. So that neighborhood commercial does broadly permit that use and is consistent with the proposed rezoning. This is what the zoning map looks like. I just took a screenshot really quick of my zoning map. This is what the area looks like, mostly residential on the opposite sides of Wayne. This is Wayne Road here, mostly CB1. There is some CB4, those auto-oriented uses that we're trying to clean up. There's some CB3 over here, some CB2 over here, mostly developed in a similar fashion with those retail plazas. A lot of them are vacant, so we're working with current business owner to find flexible uses similar to this, which do not exist along the corridor. There has been no recent changes in zoning in the immediate area, and there has not been any major developments or redevelopments in the area. I think that's important to note when considering a zoning change to permit something that is not permitted in today's zoning district or area. Recently, there has been interest only exclusively by the property owner himself in potentially relocating his dry cleaning business or laundry business from this plaza over here to his building here, which will result in a vacancy here. But he did, someone reached out to him from this dog grooming, boarding, and training business to lease out a majority of the space here. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on March 2nd and is recommending approval of this petition to you. No one spoke at the public hearing in opposition of this matter from the community. Again, Mr. Peacher, who is the business owner, and Jeff King, who is the property owner, are both available if you have any questions, and I'm happy to answer any questions as well. Thanks, City Council.
All right, Mo. Mr. Peacher, you have been unmuted. Is there anything you'd like to add to this?
No, we're just excited to bring our professional dog training school to the city of Westland, and to be able to provide healthy relationships with our clients on both ends of the leashes. That's really what we're about: educational training for both our clients and our pets.
Okay, stand by real quick. I'm going to see if there's any questions from the council. Is there any questions or comments from the council? From the maker? There you go, Councilman Herzberg.
Thank you. Not really any questions, just want to give some words of support. I think this is a good business. It's going to make a good fit in there, even though we're having to rezone it. As Mo said, we haven't rezoned anything in that stretch of Wayne Road in a long time. So if there's more of them, bring them forward. I'm sorry, I do have a quick question. I didn't see it in the site plan. Do you have any plans for an outdoor area or anything like that? Or for the boarding, everything's going to be indoors?
Yes, there will be a small section, and I believe that maybe Jeff can expound on that a little bit more in regards to the back of the building, or maybe possibly to the side of the building for that little section there. But everything is pretty much, for the most part, in-house, indoors.
Okay. There's a lot of dogs in Westland, so I think you're going to do pretty well.
Thank you, sir.
You plan on opening in the spring or the summer?
Definitely in the spring.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right. All right, are there any other comments from the council, the supporter, Councilwoman Rakowski? Any other comments from the council at all? Okay, roll call.
Councilman Godbout.
Yes.
Councilwoman Green.
Yes.
Councilman Herzberg.
Yes.
Pro Tem Londo.
Yes.
Councilman McDermott.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
President Hart.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, Mr. Peacher, congratulations and good luck.
New business, item 3. Adoption of prepared resolution related to marijuana business licensing review. I would add that the document referenced within this agenda item was updated to the council portal and to the public website at approximately 5 p.m. today, just shortly after we received it.
Is there a motion?
I'd like to make a motion, Council President, to have this item tabled.
You can't table it until it's actually, the motion's been activated, and then you can amend it.
Well, I'll make a motion.
All right, so there's a motion by Councilwoman Green. Is there support? This is putting the item on the table.
I'll support it.
Supported by Councilman Londo. Is there a discussion? Councilman Green, at this time, you can do your amendment.
Thank you. I'd like to make a motion to table item 3 to allow for a city council to properly review the documentation, to have necessary discussions and any questions that may be lingering answered from a legal standpoint.
There's a motion to table. Is there support?
Support.
Or who, sorry, raise hand or whoever who's
Herzberg.
supported. There's a support by Councilman Herzberg. Is there any discussion?
No discussion regarding a table.
Oh, that's right. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Thank you. Roll call.
Councilman Godbout,
No.
Councilwoman Green,
Yes.
Councilman Herzberg,
Yes.
Pro Tem Londo,
No.
Councilman McDermott,
No.
Councilwoman Rakowski,
No.
President Hart.
No.
Motion fails.
Is there any other discussion on the motion? Is there any other discussion
Item itself?
on the item itself, Councilwoman?
Yes, I have discussion, please.
Councilwoman Green.
Thank you. Okay, for the purpose of complete transparency, I would like to notify the public that this particular item, as many of you know, City Council approved this ordinance in October of 2019. The mayor's administration utilized the entire year of 2020 and almost the entire first quarter of 2021, which we are now in, to go through this process of review to reach the decision and recommendation in terms of who should receive these licenses. So when I say the mayor's administration, that includes the different committees and boards as well of people who were involved in this process, none of which who are attorneys. However, with that being the case, they had a year and almost another full quarter to compile and review and decide upon this information. The members of City Council received an email on Wednesday, March the 10th, after 12 p.m. in the afternoon, telling us that the entire packet is comprised of roughly 21,000 documents, and that City Council was instructed that the documents would be placed on one particular laptop, and that City Council would have to go to a conference room to review these 21,000 documents. This particular conference room is one of the smallest ones in City Hall, and it is also on a side of the building that City Council cannot access after hours. So when I say after hours, that's after 5 o'clock during the day and also on weekends. When I arrived at City Hall on Friday, the 12th, after receiving the email on the afternoon of the 10th, I arrived to find Councilman Londo reviewing the documentation, at which time he told me he had to wait for Godbout to review the documentation. It is my understanding that Councilman Londo did not review the documentation in its totality, and I waited until he was done reviewing the documentation. I returned to the conference room where the laptop was located to find the laptop missing. The laptop was removed from the conference room. I inquired with Councilman Londo via cell phone as to the location of the laptop, which was coincidentally the only laptop made available to 7 members of City Council to review 21,000 pages in less than 3 business days. Although the city of Westland spent almost $200,000 a year ago, roughly, to buy all brand new laptops and computers for the city. Councilman Londo stated that the laptop was there when he left. I then went to the mayor's office to find that no one was there. I returned to the side of the building where the laptop was, where I last saw it. And the finance director, Steve Smith, contacted the IT director, Craig Brown, to inquire as to the location of this particular laptop. After Councilman Londo stated, well, maybe IT took it. Now, I don't know if Councilman Londo knew where that computer was at when I asked for it or not. What I do know is it was not on his person when he exited City Hall. At that time, no one in the mayor's administration that was present was able to provide me access to that laptop. And so I left City Hall. Many of you were, if you were on the study session on Saturday, this was discussed in detail. Also during that meeting, two of the city councilmen, Godbout and Hart, made mention to the fact that the 21,000 documents may not have needed to be reviewed in extensive. There may not have needed to be an extensive review. I believe Councilman Hart even referenced the possibility of review being overwhelming and spoke to the environmental blueprints as being an example. However, I wanted to state for the record that I have a construction background and I can read blueprints and environmental reports. And I think that it is improper for the city to take more than a year to get through this process and to give 7 members of city council approximately 3 business days to review this. Now, during the study session on Saturday, Mo stated that he's available to be called and he could make this laptop available, at which time I asked that I questioned why the city did not, if you were going to limit our ability to review 21,000 documents and decide which contractors at your recommendation will receive the opportunity to make millions of dollars in our city. This marijuana is one of the most lucrative businesses that exists globally today. And you give us less than 3 business days and place the one laptop on a side of the building that we cannot access. During the meeting on Saturday, Mo stated that he was available via cell phone the laptop apparently was locked in his office and magically appeared, but no one in the administration knew where it was when I was at City Hall. Mo stated that he would make this laptop available. Here's the thing that what needs to be understood. City Council has quarters of our own that are locked. There are security cameras all over City Hall. So there is no reason why the city could not have made the ability for City Council to review these documents either A, on that laptop, or set up some type of, to have our IT department set up some type of secure login to where we would have been able to review them with more convenience. I, after leaving City Hall, was not able to return again to review those documents. I find it unreasonable for such a small bracket of time. I'm very concerned about the manner in which this is being forced through, in my opinion. And it is, there obviously is going to be a vote tonight. I would ask the community to remember our votes and remember what should happen in the future legally. It was discussed during our study session on Saturday. I inquired as to whether any legal experts were brought in to support the decision, this recommendation that was made by this board of people who are not lawyers. The city attorney, Attorney Falzone, stated at that time that it is his recommendation that the city move forward expeditiously with pushing through these licenses. And there were no other legal experts or attorney brought in to review the appeals or the standing of the city from a legal standpoint. And so I would ask the community to remember, should we find ourselves locked into multiple, well, anyone can file a lawsuit. Should we lose these lawsuits? I ask you to remember how we voted. I ask you to remember the fact that the city attorney will be paid to defend us whether we lose or not. So there is no disadvantage to the city attorney. City council is supposed to be the checks and balances, and to only allow 3 business days for a process that has taken more than a year is inappropriate. And I think is extremely questionable, and you all should be concerned as tax-paying citizens. I wanted to ask a question through the chair to Attorney Falzone. There was a lawyer who spoke tonight. I don't remember her name. She was, I think, the only woman who made a statement during citizens' comment. Her statement was relative to the city of Warren being sued due to awarding marijuana licenses that were later found to be inconsistent with the decision of the court. So I wanted to know from you, Attorney Falzone, can you clarify my understanding? And I'm asking this question because her statement alluded to the possibility of us being city council awarding these licenses tonight. These people later taking us to court with their argument, which they have every right to do. Everybody in America can sue, but they take us to court. We lose, hypothetically speaking. Now we are on the case for the people that we denied illegally, according to, hypothetically speaking, a rendering from a judge, plus the people that we promised a license to, that based on a judge's decision, we should not have moved forward, which is one of the reasons why I would like to, I just can't even believe what happens in Westland. But Attorney Falzone, can you please clarify, is Warren being sued due to awarding licenses that were found to be inconsistent with a judge's decision after they awarded them?
Councilwoman, is that the extent of your questions and comments to me? I want to get them all written down so I can try to answer them.
That's the extent of my question for you, yes.
Thank you. Yes, the city of Warren is being sued. As I've mentioned from the beginning of this, every city involved in marijuana ordinances and licensing has been sued. I don't know the specifics of the Warren lawsuit as to whether or not they gave conditional licenses. Tonight, you are not granting licenses. They cannot build tomorrow. You're certifying a list as directed by your ordinance. You don't have to do it, but if that's what you do, that's what it is. It's certifying a list of conditional licenses. Those conditional licensees still have to go through site plan and special land use approvals. So their vested rights is not in a license that they get to build with tomorrow, but they are allowed to move forward in the process.
Thank you. So the bottom line is, once we award these licenses, this is locked. The decision has been made. And if they meet every expectation that is in place, they will meet the conditions to move forward in business. So this is essentially granting them a license unless they fail to meet the small print, which would lock the city into further litigation if a judge rules with these other people. And I fail to see the reasoning and why we cannot wait, since the lawsuit has already been filed. Why not wait and see what the judge says? This makes no sense to me. Speaking as a real estate broker with over 20 years professional property management experience on a multi-state level, it is my understanding that the word property does include or may include both land and building. And here we go again. This is the exact same thing that happened with several other lawsuits. And we find ourselves in a compromising position because we don't consider every option. If a case has already been filed to challenge the recommendation of the city, which again, we have every right to make any decision we want to make. But if a case has already been filed, what is the harm in getting the legal decision prior to awarding these licenses, these conditional licenses? So they wait another 30 or 45 or 60 days. None of us are supposed to be in the marijuana business. I don't understand the common sense behind this, knowing that there is a possibility that yet again, they have a possibility that will be interpreted by a court, whether or not their interpretation was correct. And I'm utterly disappointed that we are going to do this. I would ask the community to remember our votes. We've been in several other lawsuits and we found ourselves on the losing end, or the end to where it would appear that we would have lost if we would not have settled. And it has been comments thrown around, well, it was only this amount in legal fees, or it was only that amount, or it didn't cost that much. None of us are paying for that. Our taxpayers are paying these legal fees, and we are paying the city attorney. So I don't understand why we are doing this. We clearly did not have enough time to review 21,000 documents, regardless of the decision that council reaches. And at that meeting on Saturday, neither Councilman Herzberg or Councilwoman Rakowski had reviewed those documents, and I didn't either, because I was refused the opportunity to do it. So whether they went in there on Saturday or Sunday, Councilman Londo said he was going to go back. This is absolutely insane that we're going to force this through when the city took more than a year. And we will not take 5 extra minutes to ensure that we are completely confident in the recommendation that we have received. I'm very disappointed, but I'm not surprised. This is exactly what I've seen happen in this city multiple times. So I guess depending on how the vote comes out, we'll see what happens. Thank you.
Councilman McDermott.
Good evening. Through the chair to the city attorney, a couple of questions tonight, Attorney Fasson. Number one, can we get kind of a definition in the land versus property debate that we've heard, building versus property debate tonight? And then number two, if this process was to be delayed and then let's say in a 30, 45, 60-day period, we made a modification to the scoring rubric, at that point, if we made a modification during the process, are we not potentially opening ourselves up for potential litigation for making a modification for something that's already been scored and decided upon? Thank you.
Mr. Fasson.
There we go. Thank you, Councilman McDermott. So I guess I'd start with, it was interesting to hear one of the speakers say, boy, it sure is interesting to listen to all these attorneys with their opinions. And certainly everybody has an opinion as to, and they were very passionate, many passionate arguments by the attorneys about what the correct interpretation or what the interpretation of the city council should have been or was in terms of the use of the word property, and whether you were trying to get environmental property cleaned up or environmental buildings that were, or buildings that might be or potentially be. It's very important to listen to what was said, because there was a lot of hypotheticals and possibilities. So what we have said on Saturday when this issue came up and subsequently is, it is our understanding that the selection committee and the Marijuana Review Board applied the Section 2 environmental conditions and points consistently throughout the process. Nobody got treated one way, others got treated the other way. And you hear a couple of arguments by those arguing the property issue. If you listen carefully, their argument is that the city should not consider at all any city or municipality specific criteria. So they would have you not look at any of that. Some call it social engineering, some call it a variety of other names, but that's what the argument essentially is don't look at any of the criteria that the municipality put in, only look at who's going to be the best to operate under the various statutes. So this issue will be resolved like many issues are in court. We knew this from the beginning. We certainly told you that throughout the process, and the councilwoman has repeatedly reminded everybody that litigation's undoubtedly going to come. And you heard that from, I was going to try to keep count of the number of lawyers who spoke today, but I didn't get the count done. So you heard it just about from every lawyer who spoke to you. So that part of it's not a surprise. You ask, well, what would happen in the next 30 or 45 days? There is no indication that the current lawsuit will be the only lawsuit. There could be multiple lawsuits. They could end up with multiple judges. They could or could not get consolidated. So there's not a 30-day horizon. This will all magically solve itself. I doubt it actually would. And one of the outcomes here could be at some point a court sends it back to the city council and says, what was your intention? Clear this up, make it clear. And indeed, if your interpretation, if the selection committee and review board interpreted you properly, read it properly, then you're right back to where you are today. We've had arguments about the lotteries and that. I don't want to get into that. That's a whole other story. But again, the lottery process followed by the selection committee first was according to the ordinances set forth and adopted by council.
Does that handle your questions, Councilman McDermott?
It does. Thank you. Thank you, Attorney.
Is there any other comments? Councilman Herzberg.
Thank you. Where to begin on this topic? I guess I'll start through the chair to the city clerk. Right before we got into this item, you mentioned that it was updated at 5 p.m. I printed my packet, earlier this morning. Can you tell me what changed on here? Because if it's something serious, then I don't know what we're voting on.
The reason that I noted for those attending this meeting that there had been a change is because the city attorney's office sent to us a revised resolution that I expect incorporated elements related to your Saturday meeting. I'll not speak for the city attorney. I would expect that he'll do that in a moment, but my intent was just to alert everyone that the latest document was posted just a few hours ago.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, Mr. Attorney, if you could jump in, because they sent us an email, Councilman. I don't know if you saw that. So, Mr. Attorney.
Yeah, Councilman, I sent an email earlier in the day. The clerk is referencing the time when he actually posted it on the website, but I did send to the council members an email and specifically identified there's really just a couple of paragraphs, if you will. The whereas, I put a new whereas. It says, whereas this matter is before the Westland City Council at a meeting open to the public, of which applicants received email notice approximately 5 days in advance, and applicants had an opportunity to address City Council. I wanted it clear in the resolution that we went out to the applicants after, last week. We notified them both of the study session and the City Council session, and I realized that was not in the resolution, so I wanted to make that clear. I also added in out of Saturday that in a new paragraph 3, for those of you who have it, the Westland City Council finds that the ordinance, policy, scoring rubric, and selection process, as written and applied, are proper under Section 205 PA 281 of 2016. That's the medical marijuana, and Section 6 of Initiated Law 1 of 2018. That's that MMRTA that we're talking about. I went on and wrote one more sentence, one more paragraph, I guess, paragraph 4. The procedure under the ordinance, policy, scoring, and rubric process as written and applied is a competitive process intended to select applicants for adult use recreational marijuana licenses who are best suited to operate in compliance with the Michigan Regulation and Taxation of Marijuana Act, Initiated Law 1 of 2018, within the city of Westland. And that's that issue of, can you have site-specific, city-specific criteria? So because this resolution will find its way into the future litigation proceedings, I added those things into the resolution that was submitted last week.
Thank you. You know, in the future, if we could make those changes directly in the council portal, I think that's where most of us are getting our packet from, at least I hope. And the deadline for changes to that is usually Friday. So that's why the mix-up happened. So it was stated before that there's negativity started after the selection process. I think it increased at that point, but there's been negativity on this from the beginning. I got letters from residents, business owners, people on both sides of the issue. And a lot of the positive comments that we hear tonight are from people who are hoping to get moving and get their business open. So sometimes it's hard to drown out the noise. You know, what's important to me is that at the beginning of this process, as it was stated by several people actually, council wanted to make sure that these facilities were all spaced out. And I think it was Councilman Johnson at the time who came up with the north of Ford Road and south of Ford Road type. And that didn't happen. We're going to have 3 large facilities at Cherry Hill and Newburgh. You know, I do have an issue with that. It was also important to council from the beginning that council's going to have the final say, no matter what the selection process comes out with. So, you know, I did talk to a couple, not all the council members, about potentially making a change to this list. And, you know, I just came to the conclusion that we're not going to get 4 of them to make any changes. And they have valid reasons, I would say. We're all entitled to our own opinion. Again, you know, I don't want to see the 3 facilities all together there. Another one was I would have liked to see the Ford and Wayne Firebird location get a license. It hasn't been a viable gas station in many years. I think it's reopened 4 or 5 times and then closed. So getting somebody in there who would remove those tanks, maybe get some of those driveways out of there and get the building out and do something new. I know that we're trying to move away from automotive on Ford Road, but that's just my opinion. Another issue I have is, you know, it was stated that all the appeals were denied at once, you know, so we can't really say that the appeals were looked at and, you know, no changes were made just based on the scoring process. And then it was stated about the laptop and reviewing the documents. I did make it out to City Hall this afternoon, to spend just under an hour. I, of course, didn't read all 21,000 pages, although I would have liked to get closer to it if we had more time. That's about it, really. I won't be in support. You know, regardless of all the negativity about it, we have to remember that these facilities, it was mentioned another city got $28,000 per facility for the year. And we're going to have, you know, 6, 7, we might reopen the process later. And all the feedback we got tonight here and during this whole process, I think we'll go into that if the city should decide to reopen the process later. So that's it for me for now. I'll see if the other council members have anything to add.
Okay. Any other comments from the council? Councilwoman Green.
Yes, I'd just like to thank everyone for the time that was put into this, as well as the companies who applied. And none of us, no elected official in the city of Westland lives near the corner of Newburgh and Cherry Hill. None of us live over there. So this corner, I don't know if you all have been in the vicinity of new marijuana businesses when they open. The traffic is outrageous. People are excited. They're not only coming from the city that it's in, they're coming from all over to get marijuana, which is legal and their right to do. But to place
to tell everyone.
I'm sorry.
My apologies.
To place 3 of them in that industrial park, first of all, is not what city council discussed. And a part of the problem with the whole, the study sessions that we had, I think we had something like 10 of them. Every time we came to a meeting, it was something new put on the table that city council did not request and knew nothing of. And it was presented from the mayor's administration and the city attorney. So some of the things that have transpired with this, I am not confident with how this has happened, and to expect city council to make such a important decision in a small bracket of time, which gives us minimal time to make sure that our city is protected, it's asinine. It is asinine from a business and professional standpoint. You would never see a major corporation doing this. I fail to see the common sense enforcing this through without making sure that we are in the best position for our city. This is not personal to me at all. This is all business, but from a business standpoint, I've never seen some of the decisions that continue to happen in our city. We go to court and spend legal taxpayers' dollars on these legal fees, just like it's running water, and nobody cares. And that is not okay with me, because in many instances, we are not in the right. It's one thing to go to court and consistently win or have a winning record. We don't have a record of consistent, a higher percentage to where we would feel, I would feel confident with going with the recommendation of the law firm who gets paid whether we win or lose. I can't believe it. So I also will not be in support, because I have not had the opportunity to even review the documents, because this one lone laptop turned up missing on the Friday when I got there in the afternoon, and Mo was not at work on Friday afternoon. So we'll see what happens, but I ask the community to remember our positions and remember our votes. Thank you.
Any other comments? Roll call.
Councilman Godbout.
Yes.
Councilwoman Green.
No.
Councilman Hersberg.
No.
Pro Tem Londo.
Yes.
Councilman McDermott.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
President Hart.
Yes.
Motion passes. Motion passes. New business, item 4, approval of voucher.
So moved, Hersberg.
Motion by Councilman Hersberg. Is there support? Calling for support. Is there support? Supported by Councilman Godbout. Is there any discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Godbout.
Yes.
Councilwoman Green.
Yes.
Councilman Hersberg.
Yes.
Tem Londo.
Yes.
Councilman McDermott.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rakowski.
Yes.
President Hart.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we now move to comments and input from the public. Everyone speaking before the council should do so in a civil manner. Speakers shall refrain from abusive or profane remarks, vulgar language, disruptive outbursts, threats, racial slurs, or other conduct that interferes with the orderly business meeting. Personal attacks on council members, the administration, city staff, other speakers, or members of the public will not be tolerated. The clock will the clock will start upon the first words of the speaker and not stop while the speaker is recognized from the floor. It's a speaker's option to ask questions at this time, and the person questioned may choose to respond during the speaker's allotment of time. However, the clock will not be stopped once it is started. Let me get my timer ready. Hold on. And last name Asper.
Good evening again, Council. This is William Asper. I have 5 things to speak about. It's very concerning about the missing laptop. I would say maybe look at the City Hall surveillance, then we can see who took it. Second thing, up until the week of voting, if many of you remember, the city employees could not have any ownership or interest in the marijuana facilities or licenses. If I remember correctly, the week of the vote, I believe it was the city attorney who changed that. That's very alarming. The third, where the Alexander the Great restaurant is, that property sold on 12/3/2019 to Epic Produce Inc. for $700,000. Now, as a business person, I can't imagine investing that much money in a maybe, especially if you've seen it. They have a really nice stone wall they've constructed, brick wall they've constructed. That property has been vacant for 15 months. So you have a property that's been vacant for 15 months. It doesn't make any sense to me from a business standpoint why you'd invest that much money unless you were possibly promised something. Now, my fourth thing, which that's concerning the rec center. The Old Value City property, they moved to the Old Art Van. I think this would be a great spot location for it. The Marshall School has asbestos, needs abatement. The former Value City furniture property, it's practically move-in ready. So I think that would save a lot of time and money. About a month ago, I ran out of time speaking about this. As a realtor and a landlord, I've seen legal discrimination when it comes to housing and regarding these two areas that I'm about to say. Neither one of these are protected at the federal or state levels. And Westland, I'm not for certain, it may be the first municipality in Michigan to pass this law. I'd like to see this come up at a vote for the next council meeting. And that is the housing protections. Sexual orientation. There are no federal or state protections for sexual orientation. So a landlord can discriminate against somebody and they can say, you know what, it's for something else. That's what they usually try to do. They circumnavigate around it and blame something else. The second thing is occupation. Now, just because what someone does for work, landlords discriminate against this. I've seen it. I don't do it, but I've seen it countless times, and it sickens me. This includes buyers and renters. No matter if you agree with someone's sexual orientation or occupation, you should all agree that we all have the same housing rights. Thank you. Have a good night.
Next up, I have last name Beer.
Hello, it's Buyer. Thank you, Council President.
Yep.
Hello, everybody. This is Daniel Buyer. I would first like to thank you for the amount of COVID vaccines currently available to our residents. I would also like to follow up by inquiring if all the residents that enrolled at the senior center in order to acquire a spot on the list were reimbursed, and how is this being insured? Secondly, I would like to ask Councilmember Godbout what the exact process is for the pickup of the Midwest recycling bins. Is this a weekly, bi-weekly, or an on-call basis?
Would you like me to answer it now?
Yes, please. I think it was stated by the council president that the answers have to happen in my time.
If they choose to answer, they can. The clock keeps running. Mr. Godbout?
Sure. We make pickups at least twice a week, and we make pickups when people leave items outside of those bins within 24 hours after we're notified. So as soon as we get notified that there's items in front, we get out the same day or within the next day to pick up those items and clean up around the bins. But they are on a regular schedule of 2 to 3 times a week, depending on the particular bin and location. Some bins get 3 times a week. Others are serviced twice a week.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. I would also like to ask if there will be a process put in place for informing local residents about the assistance that may be available when the funding presented by Congresswoman Tlaib is available, such as like flyers or notifying individual residents that aren't internet savvy. Lastly, I would like to inquire about the article posted on hometownlife.com about the consideration of acquiring Marshall School and transforming it into a recreation center. I completely back this decision, although I would like to know why now. Looking back at a clickondetroit.com article from 2012, it was stated that the Bailey Recreation Center had lost over $4 million in the last 5 years. And in addition to the savings by merging with Wayne County, this shared service will help qualify the city for $1.7 million in statutory revenue sharing for the 2012 and 2013 fiscal year. Looking at the bar graph of the city's resources provided on munitrix.com, it appears that the city was in a better financial state then than it is now. In November of 2020, it was stated that unless the Michigan legislature acts quickly to pass a community stabilization plan, local government will
All right,
soon
thank
be...
you. Your time is up. Thank you. Sorry, we're just trying to click through things here, folks. Next is phone number ending in 017. Hello.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Richard Graham with Move Westland Forward. Anyone know when yard waste will start back up again? Lots of residents have been asking Move Westland Forward. I will ask this question again for the third meeting. What is the status of the beautification committee in filling this? Why will no one from council or the administration answer this question? Are you hiding something from residents? Councilman McDermott, just to follow up with you regarding your comments from a couple of months ago, where you brought up my name in your closing comments. I never received a response from the mayor or city regarding me submitting to be on the ethics committee. Zero acknowledgement by Mayor Wild. I want to spend some time discussing the shameful actions by Mayor Wild and most on council going after Councilwoman Green and Councilman Herzberg during the last meeting, especially Mayor Wild and Councilman Godbout.
Mr. Graham, Mr. Graham, you're gonna, these are personal attacks, and
no, it's not at all.
If you have an issue with the administration, or you have an issue with the council, you can do that. But you're not, Mr. Graham,
February 21st,
Mr. Graham, I'm stopping you. Mr. Graham, don't talk over me, please. Thank you. All right, if you have a problem with the administration, you say I have a problem with the administration. If you have a problem with the council, you say I have a problem with the council. But
so you can't mention,
so signaling out people, and Mr. Graham, if you're going to keep talking over me, it'll be the end. So if you want to call out those kinds of issues, you call out those kinds of issues, and that's fine. But we're bringing this back up to a right standard, because this is not going to be a cheap shot all the time for against people, no matter who it is or from who it is. And that's just the way it's going to be. Okay?
Understood. Can't wait to be in person in a couple of weeks.
You got it,
On
sir.
Sunday, February 21st, I saw a comment from a Westland resident that stated the senior center is supposedly giving vaccines this week, but for some reason they are keeping it very quiet. I asked the Westland Senior Center. The response was yes. When I called, they said they were booked and no announcements given to all the Westland residents. I called the Friendship Senior Center on Monday the 22nd. I discussed at length with the person on the phone about coming in and reviewing my membership so I could get on the list and receive priority over non-members. This list was formed from the oldest to the youngest for members only. We have heard countless stories from residents stating the same thing, and when they called the center, but also when they called the mayor's office before February 21st. Interesting, it appears that the mastermind behind this was a senior citizen volunteer. Councilman Landau, I guess I can address him. Interesting, you only read part of the letter that the director wrote. Why not read it all? Why not publish this letter and the emails from the other council members? What is being hidden? What is the city attorney possibly telling council not to say based on possible state, federal, and county, which could be investigating this? Again, shameful what happened last meeting. Forgot one item. Mayor Wild, can you advise the status on your possible run for Wayne County Executive in 2022? Have a great evening and can't wait to be in person. for these things to happen.
Okay. Are there any other comments from the public? All right, we'll close. Oh, they just came right in. Let's see here. Mr. Schuholtz.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Well, hello, everyone. How's everyone doing? I'm looking forward to coming back in person and all this Zooming. So, yeah. Anyway, I got my vaccine shot, and hopefully other people get theirs too. And, you know, a lot of places right now are doing them, but you have to go by appointments. Myers is doing them, and just have to a lot of times check on the internet. Anyway, two, it has been mentioned 2 times about if a person has to live in this city to be on the Disability Concern Board. And if they want to know, they have to look at the policies or call the mayor's office if you're interested in being on the board. That has been mentioned at times, and I'm kind of tired of hearing about it. Okay, and number 2, number 3 is website is looking great. I signed up on it already. I'm a member on there. I can pull up the agendas now and other things. Anyway, y'all have a good night. And one more thing about the blue beds. I know that was mentioned tonight too. If people see them out there, call the phone number, they'll come pick it up. So that's how we solve problems, make things better. That's what I do when I'm in Westland. I spend 80% of my time out there, and I love it. And also, Westland PD is doing a great job in the fire department. Because I saw one of the police officers at Speedway, and I told him, you don't know how much they appreciate it when you tell them, but how you like their services, what they're doing out there. So I want to say thank you. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. All right, Stephen.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Can you hear me? Okay,
I can.
thank you. Thank you. Just a couple comments. One, I would like the answer to if you are on the committee from the pertaining to the City of Westland board or committee, do you have to live in the City of Westland? Because the person that spoke does not live in the City of Westland, and he's on the committee. 2, again, I will go back to the tagline of Westland, the all-American city. Are you saying you cannot say someone's name at the city council meeting? I think that would be a violation of freedom of speech. Are you that powerful that you can tell me I cannot say your name or the mayor's name? We live in the United States of America. You can't tell me I can't say someone's name. And I can't wait to come to the meeting personally. Because if I will say whoever's name I want to, because I'm an American citizen. And shame on you, Council President Hart. That's all. Have a great evening.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, we'll close citizens' comments and move to comments from the administration. Mayor?
All right, thank you, everybody. Council will start off tonight. This is this whole week is annual Sunshine Week, and it's a week once a year that the media ask government to try to increase their level of transparency. And this morning we launched a new financial and community performance transparency dashboard that's on citywestland.com. It's powered by Michigan-based Munitrix. You remember, it was probably, it's been about 6 months or so ago, the city of Westland received a grant through the Treasury Department that we had some matching funds, probably about $5,000 on our end to put together the new dashboard. And It will take the place. We did have some other dashboards on the website. One of those was a requirement for the city's state shared revenue through the state, and the new Munitrex dashboard now will take the place of that and still qualify us for those funds. So if you get a chance, take a look at it. I know it was mentioned tonight, but there's a lot of good information there, and it's something that we look forward to promoting. And I believe you'll see that we're one of the first cities in Michigan that have done that. The next thing, council, is I just want to talk about the COVID vaccinations. We appreciate you working with us with our first two vaccination events at Schoolcraft. We will be out there for the return visit of all of the people that received shots on the 29th and the 31st, and we've got the logistics in place to handle them so that we can move people through there a lot more quickly than we did the first time. There is a vaccination event Wednesday this week, the 17th, and there are still vaccinations available. One of the pleasant surprises that we had was we had after the first two vaccination days, we built up a pre-registered list of almost 2,700 residents that met the criteria that the governor had put out, 65 and older and 50 and older with pre-existing health conditions and some other restrictions there. So when we received word from the county that we would receive another 2,000 vaccinations, we put our Vaccinate Westland team on the phones and we started calling everybody. And something very pleasant happened as we were talking with people were saying, I've already received my vaccination. You're not going to believe it. I got a phone call. And so things are starting to move, whether it be through the health departments or Myers or some of the other outlets now for receiving vaccinations. So it was a pleasant surprise to move through that list and still have openings available. So right now, the preferred way to register is actually just go right on the cityofwestland.com. Before we had you register, and then we would call you to set it up. Now you can go on there and actually pick your appointment. We're scheduling them every 10 minutes now to try to move the lines along. As of before we started tonight, I think that we still had close to 1,000 openings for Wednesday. I know Fire Chief Morris and I are going to be working with our nursing homes tomorrow to make sure that we're not missing anybody there that has the ability to go to the Schoolcraft site. But I would encourage everybody to try to keep the word out. I saw during the council meeting tonight that actually we put it out on Nixle tonight too. So we're hoping to definitely get the word out. So once again, residents can go on the City of Westland's website to actually schedule their own appointment. If there's any residents that have trouble with the website, or they have mobility issues, or maybe that they're homebound, certainly call my office. We're working on special arrangements for those residents. But at the end of the day, I am excited to see that things are moving forward, and hopefully we'll be talking about additional vaccination centers available, which will continue to pull off the pressure that we were facing there. Just a reminder too that we're still asking folks to wear their mask, and we have free mask giveaways here at Westland City Hall in the lobby Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We're handing out the masks that the county gave us. So we do have those available for small children too. So certainly if you're stopping in City Hall, come by and pick them up. And even if you know someone that does not live in Westland, but they live in Wayne County, we can make these available. And then council, I'm just going to close my comments. I'm glad that that Councilwoman Rashida Tlaib was here tonight. She really was a champion on the Recovery Act funds. And by her serving on that committee and having the air of Secretary of Treasury Yellen, I think was really good for everybody in her district. So I'm just going to give you a little bit on it, and we're going to be keeping in the loop, obviously, through the Michigan Municipal League and the Conference of Mayors and SimCog. We're going to have a lot of information as we start to break down that funding and what we can use it for. But the things that I can share with you today that I have verified as of today is that the funding that we're talking about nationwide was $130 billion. And that's direct aid going from the federal government to the 19,000 local units of government. And that has never happened before. Just think about all the issues that have come before our country. The federal government has never sent aid to all 19,000 local governments. The $130 billion is being split half for the counties and half for the cities and villages and townships. 4.4 billion of that is coming to the state of Michigan. Out of that 4.4 billion, 1.9 will go to the counties, and the rest of that will come to the cities. There's 1.7 billion of that is going to go directly to the entitlement cities. Westland is an entitlement city. What that means is that you have 50,000 or more in population. So one of the things that the Congresswoman misspoke on was that our allocation will come directly from the U.S. Treasury to Westland. The funds will be available to us that we can draw down on. Cities that are smaller than 50,000, their funds will go to the state, and the state has 60 days to distribute those to the cities. So we expect that the money, as the Congresswoman said, is going to come in two different allotments. We had anticipated to get somewhere between 25 and $30 million. I know that the Congresswoman had said 27 million, and that's the number that we're starting to see over and over. So it looks like half of that will be available to us in 2 months, 60 days, and then the other half will be available 1 year later. The funds must be spent before 2024, and what they can be spent on is something that we're gonna dig into so we can share with you. I know that as we were advocating for this on a national level, the pitch was to replace unrealized revenue in communities' budgets, and there's also funding available, or there's also a use that was approved out of this funding was for water, sewer, and broadband projects as well. So we're going to take a look at all of that. But as this money comes into the city, we've been thinking strategic here lately. We're having a lot of strategic planning sessions, and certainly we're going to want to be very strategic on how we use these funds. First of all, they'll have to be allocated, in ways that the Treasury will let us draw down on. But I just think that it's an opportunity for us to really take a look at, what's the best use of these funds so we get the biggest bang. And, the difference between a city like Westland and with some of our businesses is that the business losses were immediate. If you were closed or you were only able to operate at 25 or 50%, your losses were day to day. I mean, you could feel them in your pocketbook every day when you close the lights out. For cities, it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to have to make sure that we use these dollars so that we can weather the long-term tail of the pandemic, because our unrealized revenue is going to start to show up over the next couple of years. So we're going to make sure that we're smart about that. And then I think for good public policy, you always want to make sure that you don't use one-time money to raise the cost of government, because when the money's gone, you still have elevated costs. So I look forward to working with all of you, and I know we'll be brainstorming. And for those of you that are, I know that several council members signed up for the Michigan Municipal League CapCon event, which starts virtually tomorrow. The CapCon is going to be basically centered around these funds. So there's going to be a lot of talk about funds and how you can use them. And we'll probably hear a lot of best practices and ideas moving forward. And I look forward to working with all of you in that space. Have a good evening.
All right, next we have the city attorney.
Thank you, Council President. I do have a few things to talk about tonight to try to clear up some of questions and comments raised throughout today's meeting. But let me start with, in terms of virtual meetings, as you know, currently there's a OMA amendment that allows virtual meetings for any reason through March 31st of this year. It is at the moment still unclear whether or not the legislature is going to extend that date. If that date expires, virtual meeting attendance is still allowed under a set of circumstances. So stay tuned. Some of the trade associations are still advancing virtual meetings for any reason after March 31st, because obviously the vaccine rollout has not been as robust as maybe folks thought it was going to be last year. Second, a question keeps getting raised about whether or not you have to be a resident of Westland to be on various boards and commissions. And this has been answered numerous times, and there are numerous boards and commissions, and it always goes back to it depends on the board and commission. So I wouldn't expect any city council member, the city attorney, the mayor, or anybody else to give you an answer to that question off any specific board or commission without checking the underlying rules and regulations. So again, that's been asked a couple of times. I don't think they understand the breadth of the question that's being asked, but it does depend on the board or commission. It does, nobody likes attorneys. Let's start there, right? I'm okay with that. That's my professional life. I've been there my whole career, but I do get a little tired of folks suggesting kind of in a yellow journalism smear tactic approach, what is the city attorney telling you not to say about the Friendship or Senior Center? And then walk away. They haven't said anything about it to anybody. And it just is a continuation of an approach of trying to shed a negative light on the city of Westland, on the city attorney's office, because there will be a city attorney, even if it's not Jim Fossone, there will be a city attorney. So this same sort of approach will be used against somebody. And I want the residents to understand it for what it really is. It's just a smear tactic. It was also alleged by somebody that the city attorney changed the ordinance to allow city employees to own marijuana shops or something like that. I don't, again, not exactly know what he was saying. Not true. If his attempt was to smear city council members that they might have a backdoor interest in these marijuana businesses, I can assure you they do not. The selection committee and the marijuana review board looked at the ownership of all of those things. The owners were listed. There was, there's this idea, again, this smear tactic of let's lay it out there and maybe somebody will buy that somebody has a background in it. Furthermore, in the last week, at my own direction, I have checked the ownership of every one of those marijuana facilities, and not the company, because companies don't make political donations, but the underlying owners of those LLCs, to find out if any of them had made contributions to elected city officials. And the answer is they have not. They haven't made it to the clerk, the mayor, the council, the state representative, or the county commissioner. So again, to lay out that something nefarious is going on and walk away, mic drop and walk away, is not consistent with the facts. And that kind of thing has been checked. And if it was there, I would have reported it to the city council members. It was also said that somewhere along the line, the city attorney was, quote, his recommendation was expeditiously pushing these licenses through, close quote. That has never been my recommendation. It wasn't on Saturday. It wasn't 2 years ago. It has been the city council's choice to move forward. It's not the city attorney's choice. It's not city administration's choice. And to somehow blame it on the city attorney as the boogeyman for making you do this. Again, I got big shoulders. I've been doing this a long time. I'm not really bothered by this, but I am bothered that it leaves an impression with your citizens that somehow the city attorney's office is the puppet master here. And that's certainly not the case, nor would I want it to be the case if I was in your situation. Finally, maybe finally, whenever a lawyer tells you this is the last question, that's the only lie you know is true. Finally, the idea that there's some sort of laptop gate or missing laptop here, as has been explained, and I'm doing this because the planning director doesn't really get a chance to speak at these things. As he has said before, at the end of Friday at 5 o'clock, he had directed that the laptop should be locked up in his office for security reasons. I explained this on Saturday. The reason there was security around the laptop and the so-called 21,000 pages is because there is personal information available in those documents. The statute makes those records exempt from FOIA. Additionally, even if the city also, it's an exemption. It's not an automatic, you can't give it out. It's an exemption. And there are lawyers on this call who will be calling me as soon as I hang up, arguing about don't release my data. But we were taking the step to make sure, and that was at the city attorney's direction. Let's control this information. City council may want to look at it, but we can't put it on thumb drives and drop it off at everybody's house. It has to be controlled so that we are dealing with it in a manner that recognizes that there may well be some personal privacy information that should not be released. And yes, it's not national security plans. We heard that on Saturday, but it still is personal privacy information some folks don't want disclosed. And as I said on Saturday, administration is trying to find a way to balance those personal privacy interests and transparency and put this information up on the public website. We're not there today. We've been busy on other things. I'm not sure when we'll get there, but it's something we're looking at. So the document security and the laptop security was related to that issue. It was not trying to hold the information away from somebody or not make it available to them. I saw emails from Council President Hart after that meeting on Saturday that the information, any council member who wanted to come in could come in on Saturday, Sunday, and that there were 2 laptops available for people to review today, Monday, if they had the time and interest to come in and do it. So I wanted to set up the predicate for why there was a concern about the data and why it couldn't just be passed out to everybody at any time with no controls so that it fit into their personal schedule as compared to balancing that privacy risk, privacy concern that was raised by the applicants. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Mr. Fasson. We begin council comments tonight with Councilman Hertzberg.
Thank you, Council President. Thank you, Mr. Fasson. You covered a couple of things I wanted to cover. Steve asked the question about the boards and commissions. He stated it is different for the various boards and commissions. Some of them you do have to live in town, some you don't. One of them is that's required that you do have to live in town is the Historical Commission. And we had some of the council members asking about opening that up so people from other cities could join because there's really a lack of participation there. So it really depends. And the mayor's office decides who goes on those boards and commissions. And I would like to think that they try to make good judgment. So I know there's one person in particular that this question keeps coming up. And I don't have an answer for that specific issue, but I want to thank City Council for approving the proclamation tonight. It didn't get any comments, kind of got pushed to the back due to the other agenda items, but we did approve a proclamation for Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month as being the month of March in the city of Westland. And I want to thank Ray Schuholtz for, he's the chairman of that board, for bringing that forward. And I agree with him, and I talked to him about this proclamation over the last couple of weeks, and I think we both agree that awareness is key. And as Ray would say, and you've heard him say it many times, label cans, not the people. So I hope we can get more talk, maybe do a PSA about this for that board if WLND has any openings this month. Secondly, I'd like to thank Rashida Tlaib, our Congresswoman, for jumping into the meeting tonight. One of the benefits of meeting on Zoom is that you can bounce around to different meetings if you're someone like her in her position. Thanks for bringing the information forward and more details. That was appreciated. I'll be looking forward to attending your webinar about that that's coming up. But it was stated that the city is going to get you know, a good chunk of money. And, you know, I think the mayor said it, and we need to be very careful about how that's going to be spent. I think he did mention that, you know, adding to the rainy day fund is important. The state likes to see cities have a 15% rainy day fund, and we're not there yet, but we would be able to get there with this before making any new spending. In regards to that, I want to thank Mr. Asper. He brought forward a suggestion for a new location for a rec center, and you know, that's a conversation that we've all been having. You know, I voted in support of looking at Marshall, but that was just to explore the idea. That doesn't mean I'm in support of it entirely. You know, is it going to be a senior center? Is it going to be a rec center? Is it going to be an educational facility? I really don't think it's a good idea just to do all three and have this gray area, you know. And in all honesty, a building like the old Value City might work a little bit better for a rec center than a school building with tons of separate rooms. It does have use, absolutely, but again, what is it we're trying to accomplish here? Is it going to be a rec center, a senior center, educational classes? You know, so it's going to be an ongoing conversation. I appreciate. I think that might be the first resident to give us any feedback on that. Next, it was asked about the status of the beautification committee. And I won't put anybody on the spot right now, but I'm going to look into that and see if there's something we can do. I know there was at least a few people who wanted to do something with the beautification committee. So I'll reach out to the administration and see if we can get something going, you know, by springtime. And then regarding the marijuana vote, I think it went good. I think everybody was respectful towards each other. I didn't think before the meeting that was going to happen. Unfortunately, the process is far from over. I think we all knew we were going to see lawsuits. Whether we changed a license or not, or made tweaks to it, I don't think we were going to get any more or less lawsuits because of it. But when these site plans do come forward, I really think we need to make sure that they have adequate parking. In addition to what we have in our ordinance, I think these types of facilities are going to need more parking than what we're allowed. So that's going to be one of my number one things. Odor ordinance was mentioned. You know, we're going to have to take a look at that with 3 grow facilities all next to each other. I think that's actually going to be a big concern. And I know that some of these companies do invest heavily in big equipment to try to alleviate that, but that'll be ongoing. I think that's about it. Just regarding the last council meeting and some of the comments in the vaccination event, I stand by my comments that people paid to get on a list for a potential event that didn't take place. People paid to get on a list, and that was used for the public event. So, you know, some of the comments, especially from one of the council members, I thought were really rude and condescending, and nobody was being attacked or being named. We were just trying to say that it could have been done better, and it can be done better in the future. That's all. So that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Councilwoman Green.
Thank you. I would like to start by informing the community that on Saturday, March 27th, from 2 to 4 p.m. at Westland City Hall, I will be having a food drive and giving away 1,000 boxes of fresh food and face masks. So that is going to be at Westland City Hall on Saturday, March 27th, from 2 to 4 p.m. Located at 36300 Warren Road. And you would enter right there at the front of our building. You do not have to be a resident of the city of Westland to receive food and masks at this particular event. It is not funded by the city of Westland. And so since I am hosting this event, I am opening it up to any family in need. So if you have relatives who are not Westland residents, they are more than welcome to drive up and get their cars loaded with, again, a fresh box of food and face masks on Saturday, March 27th. And I will be putting reminders on social media as the date approaches. I'd also like to just quickly touch on the question that was raised by the gentleman. I think he identified himself as Stephen. He asked if Westland resident, if people have to be Westland residents to sit on boards and commissions, and it has been stated several times today or tonight that it varies. This is not, that needs to be documented and made clear to the public. And it also may be open to challenge because our charter, the city charter, which I actually have a copy of, on page 9, section 4.5, under vacancy of boards and commissions, it specifically states that if a person if they move from the city of Westland, they cannot serve on this board. That is one of the items that is mentioned in section 4.5. So if the city is making up rules, it is outside of what the charter states. Once again, here we go with the exceptions and the differences in treatment. If there are, the only board that I'm aware of as an elected official that allows for non-residents that I was told was the DDA, the Downtown Development Authority, which allows for business owners in the DDA district to also sit on the board or commission. So if they have taken it upon themselves to allow non-Westland residents to sit on our boards, that number one is outside of what the charter says, and number two, then open it up to everybody. You cannot discriminate against a person that you don't like who happens to not live in Westland, but somebody who you do like, they move out and you let them stay on a board or commission. It actually can be interpreted as being discriminatory. And that is risk management and fair housing 101. Moving right along, there was I'm gonna skip that one. On Saturday, I just wanna briefly touch on a comment made by the city attorney. On Saturday during our study session, the meeting was recorded by the city. However, it was not streamed. The public is unable to see that meeting, but we can see the recording button when the meetings are recorded. During that meeting, I specifically asked Attorney Falzone if it was his recommendation to support the decision and recommendation of the board to issue the licenses according to what they recommended and to proceed in that manner. I specifically asked him that question. Was it his recommendation to support that? And he said yes. I also asked him if there were any other lawyers brought in as a secondary review, to which he said no, this is the decision of his firm and his firm only. So whether you say I didn't say the word expeditiously or not, you stated during that recorded meeting that it is your recommendation for city council to follow the recommendation in terms of issuance of those marijuana licenses according to what was documented and what they recommended. So that is in fact you telling city council that you are comfortable and confident that that is the right direction for us to move in. So, and I think
not the same
accountability in that matter.
Councilwoman, that's not the same of what you said.
That's
expeditiously.
We can't interrupt.
Council President Hart.
I'm on it, Councilwoman.
You did say it. And the meeting was recorded, and maybe if the city of Westland stops deleting these meetings that we have, you can refer back to that portion of the meeting. But I asked because I wanted to know whose legal opinion is this before we move forward. And you confirmed that it was yours. Moving right along. In terms of the viewing of these documents, the voters of the Westland voters and the statewide voted that they want marijuana recreationally. So there are none of us who are anti-marijuana on serving in the city, or at least I don't think so. The issue that we have here tonight that I raised is you took over a year and almost a full quarter to dissect and go through and prepare these documents, and you give us 3 business days. Whether or not you say there is classified documentation, we have locked quarters that would have allowed City Council to come in on the evenings and weekends. And I will state for the record, as was discussed at the meeting on Saturday, there were 2 City Council members, myself and Councilman Londo, who knew nothing about the locate where that laptop was at. We didn't know, and I was at City Hall. 2 of the mayor's executives didn't know. Steve Smith and Craig Brown, senior executives, they didn't know where it was either. So when you explain this in terms of this being minuscule, and we are voting on who gets marijuana contracts, that one we're going to get sued, you know, and it comes with the territory. But 2, these people are coming into our city to make millions of dollars. Marijuana is a multi-billion-dollar industry. So to give us a very small window of time when the administration took ample time to do their job is very questionable. If you want us to make the best decision for the city, I find it highly alarming, but I'm only 1 vote of 7. So I will move on. In terms of the vaccination discussion that happened at the last meeting, I wanted to give an update. I have spoken with residents, multiple residents, even since the last meeting, who have contacted me. One lady is legally blind. She's a Westland resident. She only bought the membership to the Friendship Center only to have her name placed on that list, which to get a vaccine, which she was told was a requirement. She will never go to the Friendship Center because of her disability. There was another resident. I spoke to multiple residents who are continuing to say that they were told that they had to buy a membership and in turn did. So there is one thing I keep telling the community, do not allow yourself to be misled when the term tax are used. A tax is a personal insult, or you are below the belt. Holding each other accountable and believing that we should be held accountable by our constituents is not an attack. Making sure that we right or wrong on behalf of our citizens is not an attack. What the city of Westland did to those residents was absolutely just if it's not illegal, it's completely unethical. If it's not illegal. And I pray that the state comes in and investigates our actions, because I have asked them to. And I believe in standing up for our residents. I will not side with a friend or a colleague who is in the wrong, that I believe who is in the wrong, and turn my back or a blind eye to these residents. I have never done that, and I will never do it. So when you start throwing attacks or using the term that people are troublemakers, make sure that you are not attempting to cover what is improprieties in our city. And I believe that is exactly what happened. So thank you for listening, and I will see you all in 2 weeks. Thanks.
Councilman Godbout.
Thanks. In regards to the vaccination events and the list for the vaccination event, and I know we're still trying to fill it, so I would encourage people to contact City Hall tomorrow, because I know there's space still available to get on the vaccination list. We were all given a letter. We all received a letter with an explanation of how or a list that was established early on, even months before we knew we were going to get vaccines at the Friendship Center. The explanation was satisfactory, but we just continue to want to bring this up. You know, it just gets tiring of rehashing the same thing. I'll move on to the marijuana selection of conditional approval. We knew, when we went into this process, there were going to be winners and losers. The winners were going to be happy, and the losers weren't going to be happy. It's the unfortunate part of, the whole process. But one thing that did happen was we were consistent with the process, and we followed the ordinance as it was laid out. There's been a lot of discussion about site locations and the fact that we're not happy with where the locations are. I'm not happy with where some of the locations are, but as a matter of fact, some of my colleagues that are expressing the biggest, or that expressed the biggest concern about where these locations were the ones that had us put in a lot of the restrictions that limited the number of locations where marijuana businesses could go in. So I find it ironic that they're criticizing now where they're going in, yet they were the ones that were some of the biggest advocates for restricting where they were, and made it a very small, in 22 square miles of the city of Westland, the areas that marijuana businesses could locate were extremely limited and restricted. So as a result of items that council members wanted to see in there for restrictions. So I'm sure that this will not be the end of the process. We still will have to review site plans, and who knows how many legal challenges as we move forward. I do know that some of the other municipalities that were sued did not follow the process or had closed meetings, and that's why they were in court and lost those challenges. So the fact that we did stick to the process, we did follow the ordinance, there was a detailed explanation in that council was able to review of the appeals process and what the review board stated as a result of the appeals process. And we all had time to look at it. I went back again today after the study session on Saturday, to make sure that I was clear on some of the things that came up during the study session on Saturday. So, and I know Mo made himself available to all the council members, gave us his personal number to get a hold of him. He would come in and open up the building and give any council member that asked access to the information, and no one availed themselves of that opportunity. I'm, unfortunately, there's a lot of people that aren't happy with the decision. I'm not particularly enthralled with some of the locations, but it is what it is. I mean, it's the fact that we followed the ordinance, and the selection was done according to all of the rubrics that were in the ordinance. I'm comfortable with the decision that council arrived at this evening. And that's all I have. Thanks.
Councilwoman Rutkowski.
Good evening. Thank you. I think when we talk about marijuana, we knew that there was going to be winners and losers, like what has been said. I wasn't on council at the time when all of the study sessions were taking place, so I didn't get to attend them. I think there was a lot of due diligence done on the city's behalf. However, there was 11 sessions, I think, 17, 11, I don't remember. And there's a lot of information to unpack, right? But I think at the end of the day, what all of the applicants are looking for is good faith. And, you know, it was a huge investment for many people to apply, get studies, what have you. And it's going to continue to be an investment, because what really happened today was just the handing of the baton for the next relay runner to go. And, you know, it probably really, these people are only about halfway through the process. You know, they still have to go in front of the planning boards and come back to council for special land use. So, you know, anything that was going to impede the forward progress of a process that's been in motion for this long, I think would have really been a display of a lack of good faith on our behalf. So is it perfect? I'm not an attorney, so I can't say if it's perfect or not. Was it pretty darn good? That would be my layman's opinion of it. Will we see? Yep. Did we have the knowledge going in that there was probably going to be an exercise of judicial decision-making happening? Yes. But also on the same vein, just because somebody files suit, you file a lawsuit doesn't necessarily mean that there will be a judgment at the other end of that for either party, good or bad. So I'm looking forward to these conditional licensees having the opportunity to take the next step in the process. I'm looking forward to seeing what the long-term economic impact of them being tenants in our city will be. I'm looking forward to seeing what the public safety implication will be, and even the traffic implication. You know, because when this process started years ago, there was talk about more people, more businesses, more. I think we have to ride this out and see what the overall impact is for our community. You know, there is excise tax that is coming. We can't get a portion of that if we don't have the businesses in place. And that's going to impact the total population of our city. So it was a decision that was made today, and we'll have to see what comes to pass. I did not get any contact except for one individual, and they did not say that they bought a membership to the Friendship Center. They are just had said that they had heard that this had happened. So I would implore any of those seniors who did feel compelled and reached out to council members to ask those council members to help them. I'll help you if you bought a membership. Maybe they don't know the process of getting a refund. I don't know. And I certainly don't know all of the things that happened. I just don't. But I do know that there are still vaccine appointments available. It is a web-based function now. But if you have challenges using the website, you know, if you call the mayor's office, they'll be able to assist you, because technology sometimes isn't the friendliest. But it's good to know that through the process that more and more people are being vaccinated, especially those who choose to be. And I'm looking forward to the fact that it'll be available to more individuals. I did have an opportunity as well. I just wanted to make sure, because it was mentioned that I didn't have opportunity to review the documents. I did go today, went this morning. It was probably, in my opinion, after going to the study session, having an opportunity to look, I was able to look at very specific things that I wanted to review. And again, not an attorney. So I was looking at from a layman's perspective, and, you know, don't have the right to make any kind of legal determination of what was presented. But I did see a lot of very personal information. So I think if it was mine, I think, you know, I would not have wanted that shared openly either. So with that, I wish you all a happy St. Patrick's Day on Wednesday. And for those of you getting vaccinated on Wednesday, best of luck. Thanks.
Councilman McDermott is up next.
Well, good evening, everybody. First, want to start off by thanking Ray for bringing up the resolution with for disabilities protections here. So, Ray, thank you for your continued advocacy in the community for those with brain health issues and those with disabilities and those who are differently abled. We certainly appreciate you, whether it's on this resolution or all the work that you do in the community. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. Also appreciate that it was brought up in regards to an alternative location for a potential rec center. I'm open to any resident suggestion, whether it's at Marshall or Value City Furniture, for where we ultimately put a recreational center. Certainly open to multiple locations, but this is something that residents have really demanded that we ultimately bring back is a recreational facility, and anywhere we can potentially do that, whether it's Marshall or an alternative location, I am certainly open to looking into that. I want to thank our Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib for joining us today and giving us the details about the American Rescue Plan. It's going to be our job as a council to do diligence to make sure that we control and work with the administration to dictate how this money is spent or how it is saved. We are the legislative body of the city, so we have every right to work with the administration and have a strong voice in the conversation in terms of determining how that money is spent, saved, what we can use it on. And obviously we have to work with the administration to see what specifically we're going to be able to spend that money on too. We can't just, go out like the Wild West and say we want to spend it on anything we want. There are probably going to be guidelines, restrictions, and parameters to some of that money. So certainly we want to make sure that we are within those and we follow those. But really excited at the potential of this money to be able to help the community, to be able to help residents and people in the city who have been really economically devastated and really hard hit by COVID-19 in this last year. So really excited to work with my colleagues here on council, the administration, to hopefully be able to hold numerous study sessions, get community input all across the community from residents to really use this money to benefit the most amount of people possible here in our community. In regards to the vaccination thing, look, unequivocally, we all know that no one should have to pay to get on a list. That wasn't the intent here. I had the opportunity to talk to Barb, our senior services director who oversees the Friendship Center, talk to other people in the administration. It was not the intent to have people pay to get on a list. Unfortunately, there were lists being formed for initially a potential private event, it looks like, with CVS or some other partner in the community, and then a list that was ultimately formed for the county that built off of a prior list being built over the summertime. Look, if you were put on that list, you should get a refund. And the administration, the mayor has made it clear that we want to see anyone that was asked to pay ultimately get a refund, and you can call his office and you can do so. But residents don't know the difference between a public and a private list. Whether it's a list for an event at CVS or whether it's a list for Wayne County, they just want to get on a list and get vaccinated. They don't want to have to pay for it. They don't want to have to be asked about a membership to the Friendship Center or not. They just want to get on the list and get vaccinated. And that's what we were ultimately, in the end, able to do here as a community, and we're continuing to able to do as a community. But moving forward, when we're building this list, we obviously don't want anyone to get charged or asked about a Friendship Center membership. We just want them to get on the list because, again, it's a situation where residents they're scared, they're concerned, they want to get vaccinated. We want to get them on the list. As far as residents who were added on to the Wayne County list, I've talked to several residents who did say prior to the Wayne County list being formulated, they were asked about membership to the Friendship Center, which explains why there was a potential event at the Friendship Center. I don't think that was necessarily the best way to go about it. I think we should have just made a list. Anyone wants to get on it, Friendship Center membership or not. Again, though, I've had the chance to talk to people in the administration, specifically Barb, and moving forward, it looks like we have this issue cleared up. But it was unfortunate that it happened in the first place. But again, anyone that wanted to get on the list for the county event got on there, regardless of membership or payment status or anything like that. It was the city's goal, the administration, the council's goal. It was collectively our goal to get as many people vaccinated as possible, and it continues to be our goal. In regards to the marijuana thing, I voted yes back in 2018 for the legalization of marijuana, and I continue to support that here today. And I voted yes this evening. There were no less than 10 communities in the state of Michigan: Alpena, Ann Arbor, Berkeley, Detroit, Inkster, Traverse City, Port Huron, Warren, that had their processes questioned, and these communities taken into litigation or potential litigation in regards to the decisions they made for adopting marijuana and legalization in their city, for recreational sale, and for adopting a licensing process. No less than 10 communities got sued. No matter what the process was, there was probably going to be potential litigation. Yes, it is our job as your representative body to look out for you and protect your interests, your financial interests as taxpayers. But again, as has been stated, there are winners and losers, and people who are on the losing end who didn't get chosen in the process likely are going to sue. It's happened to Alpena, it's happened to Ann Arbor, it's happened to Detroit, to Inkster, to Berkeley, to Traverse City, to Warren. Communities that got themselves in hot water were communities that deviated from their process, that did things behind closed doors, that violated Open Meetings Act, that were not transparent, that told proprietors on one end, here's the process, and then somewhere along there deviated and changed what they did. They changed their scoring rubric. They changed their metric. And those communities are in quite a bit of hot water because they didn't follow the process and the letter of the law that they set out. We set up this process over a year and a half ago as a council. As Councilwoman Rutkowski said, I was not on the council either, but this process was set up with specific parameters and guidelines. All the proprietors knew that going into this situation. And yes, we don't want to get sued as a community. No one is sitting here inviting a lawsuit or wants it to happen. We all want to protect your financial interests as taxpayers. But the fact remains that throughout the process, it wasn't questioned. In the 11th hour, when businesses were chosen, and some businesses unfortunately were not, that's when we saw lawsuit, litigation, that kind of terminology being thrown around. That's when we saw it called into question of what is property, what isn't property, what is a building, what isn't a building. We saw that called into question in the 11th hour. Almost any community that has chosen to adopt recreational sale in their community, sale and grow operations, has been sued. And the ones that have gotten it really bad, like Warren, for example, deviated from their process. We did not do that. We followed it through the letter of the law. I don't know that just because I go out and say that. I know that because I talk to people on the review committee. I talked to the selection committee. I talked to our city attorney. I had the chance to talk to Mo for at least an hour when I was up there last week, Thursday, to review this. So yes, we don't want to get sued. Nobody on this council, nobody in the administration wants litigation against this city, period, unequivocal. But we followed the process tonight and throughout the 2 years that we've been developing this so that we can limit our litigation. Yes, there are going to be people that didn't get selected that we may have thought, oh, we would have preferred that location. Councilman Herzberg mentioned it earlier with the Firebird location. Personally, I think that would be just a potentially good site for a location, but we followed the process and that site wasn't chosen and other sites were. And yes, there are a collective of sites along Cherry Hill. There's some potential redevelopment there for some vacant properties on Cherry Hill, but those sites weren't chosen because the planning director stuck his thumb in the air and went the way the wind blows, or chosen because we on council got together and said, we want you and not you. They were chosen because a process was followed, a process that was approved by council. It was approved by the city attorney, the legal body, the legal representation of our city, and it was ultimately followed from start to finish. So I voted in favor of it, and I know that many of my colleagues did because the process was clear from start to finish, and it was followed from start to finish. And I just want all the taxpayers and all the residents to know that we are looking out on your behalf in your best interest. And we understand that there is going to be potential litigation out of the decision we made tonight. But if we had deviated from that decision, there would be more potential litigation added on top of it. If we had chose to pick one set of winners over another, and we chose as a council body tonight who would be the winners and losers, then somebody who had gotten selected throughout this process that was then taken out tonight in favor of somebody else probably would have sued, probably would have brought litigation against the city. So of course, we have your best interests at heart, all of us, all 7 of us, in making sure that we protect you from litigation. That's why we had a process in place prior to myself and Councilwoman Rutkowski getting on council. That's why it was followed from start to finish. And that is why, I voted yes tonight in favor of the businesses that were approved and followed the process. And with that, I bid you all a wonderful evening. And if you have any questions about this or any other issues, feel free to give me a call at 734-890-2146. I'd be happy to discuss the facts of the situation with you further. Thank you and good evening.
Council President Pro Tem Londo.
Thanks, President Hart. I'll start off tonight by wishing all the women in our community a happy Women's History Month. Thank you to 2 of my colleagues, Councilwoman Green and Councilwoman Rutkowski, for serving, and happy Women's History Month to both of you and all the women in our community. Thank you to Congresswoman Tlaib for the update today. That's exciting news for our community to receive $27,000. I'm excited to have discussions on where we can spend that money. We'll get into those details right now, but I'm looking forward to that. It's a game changer and a huge shot in the arm for our community. I want to thank Aubrey Berman, Luke Bonner, who's one of our consultants, Mo Ayub, and the entire economic development team for a great strategic planning session on Saturday. We've had, I think, 3 of these now, and they've been extremely informative, and I appreciate all the council members that have attended and brought forth very productive discussion. These sessions are really going to tee us up for our budget deliberations in April. As far as the vaccination discussion, it was discussed. I thought Councilman McDermott hit it on the head, so I won't go into too much detail on that. I just will mention that there's been talk of all these residents that are reaching out to certain council members. To this point, I have not got one phone call, not one email, not one Facebook message, not tagged on Facebook, nothing, not a knock on my door. Not one person's reached out to me and said that they paid for a membership and they wanted a refund. So if you did, and you're not getting the answers you're looking for, you can call me directly at 734-223-0200. And I did talk with the mayor's office recently, and I don't know if Mayor can confirm this or not, but up until this point, only one resident has reached out to his office, which he asked for, claiming or asking for a refund, I should say. And that was someone that talked with Councilman McDermott. So one resident. I was brought up during citizens' comments, what's new? So I'll clear up the partial email that I read. I'm happy to read the entire email, but I will not do that tonight. I don't want to take off everybody that's been sitting here for over 3 hours. But if anyone wants to hear the entire email, contact me directly. I'd be happy to read it to you over the phone. I was simply just pointing out 2, misstatements from 2 of the council members that I felt misspoke, and I wanted to clear it up. But there's 2 of the paragraphs that Barb Markham spoke about that cleared that up, I believe. As for the marijuana industry or marijuana vote tonight, I want to thank everyone involved in the process, from my colleagues to the administration to our attorneys. I thought everyone's done a great job planning and economic development. And thank you to all the people in the industry. They've been with us since June of 2019, going through this process. Attending the meetings, reaching out to us, speaking during the public comment portion at all of our public meetings. I listened very carefully to what everyone had to say. I read a lot of material, more material, obviously, than anything I've ever read as far as a voting decision. So I'm comfortable with the process. I'm comfortable with the amount of material the council had access to. And again, the amount of time that the public had to reach out, or the public had a chance to speak. Mr. Fausone, I appreciate you as well. He said that nobody likes our lawyers, but I appreciate you. Thank you for clearing up many of the misstatements tonight and throughout this whole process. It's unfortunate that things can be said during citizens' comments or even from other people of this body, and you can't respond to every single thing. But I appreciate you responding to some of the important stuff, and I respect you greatly, and your office represents us well. So thank you, Jim. A couple more things. I want to say happy birthday to Westland resident Roy Wilson, who just turned 100 years old recently. I've had the pleasure of meeting Mr. Wilson at the NAACP Freedom Fund dinner 2 years ago, I believe it was, or 2019, I believe. Or he was an award recipient. Also, I saw Matilda Rodriguez Ibarra turned 100 years old. She's from West Haven Retirement Facility over here in Westland as well, and they had a big drive-by birthday parade for her. So I'm sure that made her very happy. So happy birthday to both of those two folks in our community. As far as the agenda items, I was happy to see funding allocation from the Wayne County Parks to go to both Stoudemire Park and JC Park. I know the residents in Tonquish will be very happy, and I know Council President Hart will be very happy to see a new park pavilion. That's something he's been advocating for. So I'm looking forward to that. And then lastly, I'll just end it, the personal attacks. That is one thing that I do get phone calls on. I don't get a lot of phone calls. I put my phone number out everywhere. My phone number is on the screen on WLND. It's my personal cell phone number. Anybody can call me at any time. It's on the bottom of my email signature. It's on the website. I don't get many calls on issues, but I do get calls on this issue. Why are people allowed to come in there and just attack you personally? Doesn't the council president read on the agenda specifically that there's no personal attacks? So I appreciate the council president for putting an end to it finally. And I believe you'll be consistent across the board. And as your pro tem, I'll do my best to keep you honest when it comes to this. So thank you very much, everyone. It's been a long night, so that's all I got for tonight.
Thank you. Everyone's usually excited to hear me talk, not because it's hearing me talk, but I'm the last one to talk, and it means it'll be over soon. So a couple quick things go in order. This whole vaccination kind of issue, this is, first of all, the horse is dead, buried, put in the yard. The flowers in the grave have already rotten, and I think everybody keeps trying to exhume this thing because it's got some political fuel to it. It's ridiculous. It needs to go away. All right. If anybody wants a refund, sure, they could have done things a little bit different. I agree with McDermott. Okay, I agree with some of the other council members. Hindsight's 20/20, and anybody who wants a refund, the council will already push the mayor, and the mayor, without question, agree to refund anybody. Just get it refunded and be done. I just don't think it needs to need beating people up over it on the council meetings, my opinion. The marijuana thing, I think McDermott answered everything for me. So if you really want to know what I think, some couple anecdotes, just rewind this video real quick and watch what Council McDermott said. And then you can pretty much just put me down as a ditto. We had a process. It took us, a year and a half to put this process together. We didn't rush anything through, ladies and gentlemen. We took a year and a half to develop this process, to run it through the machine. All this was validating one of the steps of the process, okay? And that was the selection committee did its job, the review board did its job, and then the review board turned back and they responded back. That was what we were looking at, okay? We weren't looking at the entire marijuana ordinance from stem to stern because we've already put in the hundreds of hours and thousands of man hours, to get this done. So this was reviewing the process, getting that process done and vetting it and moving it on. And we have 2 more bites at the apple. Okay. It still has to go to planning. It still has to come before special land use. So, and this whole process was put together with a lot of input from not only our attorney, but, a lot of other communities that our city attorney had talked to and Brandon Grisco had talked to get best practices from other communities and find out where the pitfalls were, the roadblocks were, the things you could stub your toe on. And they helped guide our council when we came up with our ordinance to make sure that we were very clean, very well prepared. And we put together that process and we followed the process. If you want to talk about really getting sued, like really sued, deviating from the process now and changing it up and changing the MRB review and the selection committee review and changing our ordinance at the last minute based off of subjective personal opinion. You want to talk about a lawsuit? That's a lawsuit. So everything else, that's a course of doing business. Hey, we apply, we don't win, we sue. That's what we do. We lose the bout, we go on to the next one, we try again. You heard some of the other people in the industry say that today. We lost, we move on. Okay, so that's how it works. Hey, the ones that lost, we move on. When we open up, love to have you apply again if we do open up again in the future. With regards to personal attacks, Pro Tem, I didn't know he was going to bring that up, but he did. He's absolutely right. All these phone calls people get about all these unrelated issues, I sometimes think if you're a politician, if you got 2 phone calls, you got 200. So I think, but this is the one thing I hear about on email, on telephone, when I'm at the grocery store with Linda trying to pick out some tomatoes. Hi, Council President. Can't you do anything about those council meetings when everybody just shows up and arguing? Everybody's just taking cheap shots to each other. And usually the thing that comes after that is, isn't there a policy against that? There is. And they're right. All these personal cheap shots against each other, they're done. It says in our policies and procedures. I'm just here to enforce the policies. These are the policies council has written, and these are the policies I have to enforce. If you want to be critical of the administration, you want to be critical of council, if you're not happy with how something, that's fine. These opportunistic cheap shots taken to people who maybe aren't your political favorite or political adversaries. And this is starting to ramp up as we're getting into election season. I'll just call it for what it is. They're going to get worse, and it needs to stop. The community wants us to run a professional business meeting. We can disagree all we want. That's what we're here to do. But when we disagree, we find a way to collaborate with each other. If you want to be disagreeable or you want to be a collaborator, there's a difference between the two. All right. So if you want to get things done, you collaborate with your colleagues, not just fight them along the way, because you're not going to get anything done. So let's work together. Let's work like a bunch of adults, and let's stop getting the phone calls of people in the community who are kind of angry about these things turning into days of our lives at 10 o'clock at night, because there's no place for it. So with that, thank you for all of your time. Citizens, thank you for all your time. As always, you can reach out to any one of us, and any one of us will be able to work any issue for you. So there's 7 of us here all working for you. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So move, Londo.
Good evening.
Supports.